Chapter 727. He had gained a lot from this battle. Apart from killing hundreds of millions of blood tribe members, he had also obtained a large number of treasures from the secret realm. Of course, Chu Kuangren's contribution in this battle was the greatest, and he had already obtained the greatest opportunity of fortune. The secret realm origin was more valuable than all the treasures in the secret realm combined. However, he would not give up on the rest of the treasures either. It was impossible for him to take all of them. He could not use all of them anyway. Chu Kuangren took a portion of the secret realm's treasures to ensure that he could improve his strength as much as possible. As for the rest, he handed them over to the Ghost Blade Heavenly Venerate as his army's provisions. "Brother Chu, I thank you on behalf of the extraterrestrial soldiers," the Ghost Blade Heavenly Venerate said solemnly. "We're all on the same battlefield now, so there's no need to be so polite," Chu Kuangren said. After spending a few days cleaning up the battlefield, the Ghost Blade Heavenly Venerate even estimated the number of battle points that Chu Kuangren would receive. Chu Kuangren had killed hundreds of millions of Blood Tribe members, including emperors, Heavenly Venerates, and even Blood King's sons. Excluding those below the Honorable Realm, there were tens of millions of Honorables. Not to mention that there were many sages and emperors among them. In other words, Chu Kuangren would receive tens of millions of battle points this time, which was more than everyone in the 17th fortress. And this is just the number of enemies killed. The secret realm treasures are also a huge amount of battle points. Brother Chu, you can even enter the top 100 of the 81 fortresses' total battle points leaderboard. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Venerate laughed. Every fortress had its own battle leaderboard, and when all the battle leaderboards were added together, they would form the total battle points leaderboard. Those who could enter the top 100 of the total battle points leaderboard were all famous top-notch cultivators in the extraterrestrial battlefields. Someone like Yan Honghua, who was ranked in the 20s of the 17th fortress's battle points leaderboard, could not be compared to the top 100. Even the ones in the top 100 had at least tens of millions of battle points. Yan Honghua only had a few million battle points. The top 100 of the total battle points leaderboard? Interesting. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Then, the few of them continued their discussion. When the battlefield was almost cleaned up, everyone decided to head back. However, Chu Kuangren did not leave. Instead, he decided to stay in the secret realm. He planned to completely refine the arcane world's source before leaving. Heavenly Venerate Ghost Blade didn't say much about this. "Fellow Taoist Chu, don't worry. I'll definitely handle the battle merits and the resources of the secret realm properly for you." "Thank you, General." Chu Kuangren was very confident in the Ghostly Blade Heavenly Honorable. After living in the general's residence for a few days, Chu Kuangren knew the Ghostly Blade Heavenly Honorable very well. After the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable and the others left, Chu Kuangren returned to the secret realm origin and continued to refine it. Time flowed, and a month passed. On this day, when Chu Kuangren walked out of the Crystal Mountain Wall, he was in high spirits. Over the past few days, not only had he completely refined the arcane world's source, but he had also absorbed many of the treasures he had obtained from the arcane world. His current cultivation base was no longer comparable to that of the past. Upper Celestial Venerable. Moreover, he was a top-notch Upper Heavenly Venerate. Coupled with the small world that he had obtained after comprehending the origin of the mystic realm, even if he didn't have the freakish ability of stopping time, there was practically no one below the Tao Lord who was a match for him. He was confident that he would be able to defeat someone like Bai Juexin quickly. "I'm in a great mood. Let's do a lucky draw to reward myself." Chu Kuangren opened the fantasy roulette and began the lucky draw. "Congratulations, host. You've obtained a God-tier technique, Eternal Stellar Physique." "Huh?" Chu Kuangren was stunned. A God-tier technique. Although it was not the first time he had obtained a God-tier reward, it was still the first time he had obtained a God-tier technique. Moreover, the name of the technique sounded rather impressive. He opened his inventory and saw an ancient book lying inside. The cover of the book was sparkling like the stars in the sky. Extract the eternal stellar physique, Chu Kuangren said. Suddenly, the mysteries of this god-tier technique surged into his mind. After a long time, he finally finished absorbing it. What a powerful technique! This technique definitely surpasses all the Emperor's scriptures I've ever seen. Chu Kuangren's eyes were filled with joy. It was because the star immortal body was too powerful. The eternal stellar physique was a physique tempering technique. Its cultivation method was extremely shocking, and it was, to devour the universe. To devour all the stars in the universe and temper the body. I already have the god-tier immortal body physique. Now, with the addition of the god-tier technique, the eternal stellar physique, once I master both, who in this universe can defeat me? Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh. Then, his figure flashed and flew out of the secret realm. In the cold and silent universe, a giant pink bubble floated. At this moment, a white figure flew out of the bubble. It was Chu Kuangren. He came to the top of the pink bubble and willed it. The pink bubble shrunk at an incredible speed and finally turned into the size of a glass ball. Chu Kuangren held it in his palm and absorbed it into his body. At this time, Chu Kuangren had completely refined this secret realm. He could control the size of this secret realm at will and carry it around with him. However, he could not put it into his yin and yang ring. This secret realm was a world after all, and a yin and yang ring could not accommodate such a level of existence. Even if Chu Kuangren's yin and yang ring was legendary, which was the highest grade in firmament star, it could not do anything. Therefore, he could only store it in his body. This was also the safest and most reliable way. The energy contained in this secret realm is not to be underestimated. In the future, if I don't like anyone, I can just throw this secret realm at them. No one below the Tao Lord level can stop me. Chu Kuangren smirked. After keeping the pink secret realm, he looked at the seventh asteroid not far away with a hint of greed in his eyes. It was like a glutton who had seen a rare delicacy. Shall AI analyze this asteroid for me? Is the energy contained in it enough for my eternal stellar physique to achieve initial success? Connecting to the universal consciousness, analyzing, a mysterious thought swept across the entire seventh asteroid. Grade 2 asteroids contain rich minerals and geothermal energy. It's not enough for Master's eternal stellar physique to achieve initial success. At most, it can only advance to about 70%. 70%? Chu Kuangren was a little disappointed. However, he quickly threw that disappointment to the back of his mind. With so many stars in the universe, why would he be afraid of not having enough body-tempering resources? Let's start with the seventh asteroid. Chu Kuangren smirked. Then, his figure turned into a stream of light and pierced through the surface of the seventh asteroid, arriving at the planet's core. There was hot lava flowing here, and the temperature was extremely high. However, Chu Kuangren did not care. He activated the eternal stellar physique, and an indescribably terrifying suction force instantly erupted from his body. The surrounding heat, dust, and rocks quickly rushed towards him like rivers flowing into the sea. Under the effect of the immortal stellar physique, these energies were quickly converted into the astral energy needed to temper his body. However, Chu Kuangren felt that this process was too slow. Universal Cauldron Physique. Chapter 728. Universal Cauldron Physique. Absorb it. Chu Kuangren once again activated the Universal Cauldron Physique. This physique allowed one to quickly absorb any kind of energy between heaven and earth, and of course, that included the celestial energy. With the help of the Universal Cauldron Physique, Chu Kuangren's speed of absorbing the celestial energy greatly increased, and the seventh asteroid gradually collapsed. Looking from the sky above the planet, the asteroid was constantly trembling at this moment. Its surface was exploding, and huge cracks crisscrossed the ground, with countless amounts of magma gushing out of them. Meanwhile, the various energy substances contained within the planet were gushing towards the interior of the planet. Logically speaking, such a huge surge of energy should have caused the planet to explode. However, the seventh asteroid did not. Instead, it was collapsing inwardly. After that huge surge of energy substances entered the interior of the planet, it disappeared completely as if it was devoured by a horrifying beast. And that horrifying beast was, of course, Chu Kuangren. As the seventh asteroid was gradually refined by Chu Kuangren, the entire asteroid belt was plunged into an unprecedented tremor. The various super-small asteroids and asteroids that were floating in the cosmic void collided one after another. Some of the asteroids that were closest to the seventh asteroid were also affected by that horrifying suction force and were gradually sucked in as well. Another month had passed. Only some cosmic dust was left where the seventh asteroid used to be. In the void, a white-robed figure was sitting cross-legged with an incredibly dense celestial radiance circulating around his body. From afar, he looked like a bright star. All of a sudden, Chu Kuangren opened his eyes and the celestial radiance on his body retracted. He slowly got up, and the surrounding void began to tremble violently as if it was withstanding an extremely horrifying force from his movements. At that moment, a gigantic meteorite that was thousands of kilometers in size was hurtling towards Chu Kuangren from afar. Chu Kuangren stood in the air without dodging. He gently raised his hand, clenched his fair and slender fingers into a fist, and punched towards the meteorite. There was a loud explosion. The entire meteorite shattered into countless fragments. Chu Kuangren stood still on the spot. Some of the shattered meteorite fragments hit his body, but they did not cause him any harm at all. This physical body is already this terrifying even though it's not even at the initial stage. How terrifying will its power be once it reaches the full stage, or even the peak stage? Chu Kuangren murmured. His eyes were filled with anticipation. At that time, he wouldn't even need to use any techniques. He would only need to throw a light punch to easily shatter the star. Even an Empyrean or Tao Lord could be annihilated with a single punch. Even slaying immortals was not impossible. There should be some asteroids nearby that I can absorb. I'll go back after I raise the star immortal body to the small success stage. Chu Kuangren murmured. His monarch will surged out like a tidal wave, and in the blink of an eye, the information of all the celestial bodies within a radius of tens of millions of miles appeared in his mind. He locked onto an asteroid with no signs of life and flew towards it. Another month had passed. Within that 1 month, Chu Kuangren had absorbed a few more asteroids. Although the amount of energy provided by them was not as massive as the seventh asteroid, it was still enough for his immortal stellar physique to reach the initial mastery realm. Minor completion, greater completion, peak, perfection, these are the 4 stages of the immortal astral body. If I want to advance from minor completion to greater completion, the amount of astral energy required is more than 10 times that of minor completion. If I want to reach peak, the amount of astral energy required is even more unimaginable. As for perfection. TSK, I wonder if I can achieve perfection after absorbing an entire star. Chu Kuangren looked into the distance at the gigantic crimson glowing sphere. That was the star, also known as the sun. Cultivators were extremely fearful of the sun. This was because some high-level cultivators knew that the star, which was also known as the sun, was the source of all energy. The reason they were able to cultivate was all because of the sun's light and heat, as well as the constant release of energy. In other words, without the sun, firmament star would not have given birth to life, much less a cultivator civilization. However, the sun, which was revered by countless cultivators, was now being targeted by Chu Kuangren as if it was food. TSK, forget it. This sun is the energy source of this galaxy. If I absorb this sun, who knows if there will be other cultivator civilizations in this galaxy. However, I'm afraid the living beings in Firmament Star won't be able to escape this calamity. Chu Kuangren shook his head and said. He planned to wait until he had grown to a certain level before leaving this galaxy and heading to other galaxies in the universe. Then, he would see if there was a chance for him to absorb a few stars. Firmament Star and even the entire galaxy's civilization did not know that they had somehow escaped this calamity. Alright, it's time to return to Fortress number 17. Chu Kuangren murmured as he took out a battleship. This was left behind by the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable and the others before they left. Upon entering the battleship, Chu Kuangren opened the battleship's barrier and the star map. After confirming the route, Chu Kuangren steered the battleship back to Fortress Number 17. Fortress Number 17. General's residence. Grandfather, how was it? Have the orders from above been passed down? Yan Honghua asked the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable nodded and said, after the Sky Honorable Assembly's discussion and the Taoist Master's instructions, the resources obtained from the Secret Realm will be distributed equally to the 16th, 17th, and 18th fortresses. Among them, the 17th fortress will take the majority. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable laughed out loud. He was in a great mood. That was true. This time, even he, the Fortress Master, had personally gone into battle. Although Chu Kuangren was a lone soldier, he had lived in the general's residence for so long, so he could be considered part of the 17th fortress. Hence, he had contributed greatly in this battle. Of course, they would take the majority of the resources. What about Brother Chu's battle merits? Yan Honghua asked again. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable glanced at Yan Honghua and revealed a meaningful smile. You seem to care a lot about Brother Chu. Yan Honghua's gaze was a little evasive as she said, Brother Chu saved all of us, so it's only natural that I care about him. Is that all? What else? Yan Honghua replied. Sigh, what a shame. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable sighed. I thought you'd finally come around and wanted to have a passionate relationship. Grandfather, what are you talking about? That's impossible. I won't think about these things before I get my revenge. Besides, he already has a family. A hint of loneliness flashed across Yan Honghua's eyes as she spoke. What? You already have a family? The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable was a little surprised to hear that. He then said regretfully, that's a shame. I really do think highly of Brother Chu. Throughout the entire extraterrestrial battlefield, he's the only one who's worthy of you. Alright, back to my previous question. What did the higher-ups say about Brother Chu's battle merits? Yan Honghua continued to ask. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable only raised a finger. Yan Honghua understood and sucked in a breath of cold air. That's a lot. Yes, it won't be long before Brother Chu's name appears on the combat leaderboard. Besides that, the Sky Honorable Assembly will give him a special reward. When that time comes, someone will come looking for him. Chapter 729. Fort Number 17. Outside the general's residence, a sword race suddenly appeared. The cultivators in the general's residence all looked at the newcomer warily. It was a swordsman in a white robe who looked very young. However, the aura that emanated from his body was so cold that even the soldiers in the general's residence felt a prickling sensation on their skin. Someone, tell me your name. One of the soldiers said coldly. Fort Number 18, Jian Wuk of the Swordsman tribe. Jian Wuk said indifferently. Many people's eyes narrowed when they heard that name. Some of the cultivators on the street also stopped in their tracks. Jian Wuk, ranked 98th on the battle credits leaderboard. Why is he here? Some cultivators could not help but exclaim. Some cultivators who did not know who Jian Wuk was immediately awed when they heard that he was ranked 98th on the battle credits leaderboard. In all the forts, battle credits represented a person's status. The higher the battle credits, the more respect and reverence one would receive. This was especially true for cultivators who could squeeze into the top 100 of the battle credits leaderboard. In our Fort Number 17, the only person who can squeeze into the top 100 of the battle credits leaderboard is the general. Yes, that's right. Jian Wuk is from the Swordsman tribe. What's he doing here? Before the soldiers could go into report, the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable had already sensed Jian Wuk's arrival in the general's residence. He walked out and laughed, Taoist Wu Kei, what kind of wind is this? Why are you here? Jian Wuk's battle credits were not low, so even the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable did not dare to slight him. When Jian Wuk saw the Ghostly Blade Heavenly Honorable, the Fort Master, he gave him the appropriate amount of respect. He cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, General Ghostly Blade. I'm here to look for Chu Kuangren." "Oh, why are you looking for Brother Chu?" The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable was slightly surprised. Chu Kuangren had only arrived at the extraterrestrial battlefield not long ago. Since when did he have anything to do with Jian Wuk? "I'm here to look for him and fulfill my promise of battle," Jian Wuk said calmly. However, his words were like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. Many people were in an uproar. Who could make Jian Wuk come all the way here to challenge him? Chu Kuangren, this name sounds quite familiar. I think I've heard it from the army camp recently. What is this person's background? For Jian Wuk to think so highly of him, could it be that he is also in the top 100 of the war merit list? That's not right. I can practically recite the top 500 names on the battle merit leaderboard backwards, but I've never heard of the name Chu Kuangren. Ghostblade Heavenly Lord frowned and said, "Is there some misunderstanding between Daoist Wuk and Daoist Chu? I am willing to mediate between them. This is a matter between me and Chu Kuangren. You don't have to say anything more, General. Can you invite him out now?" Jian Wuk said indifferently. "Fellow Daoist Chu hasn't returned yet. When will he return?" I don't know." Empyrean Ghostblade shook his head. "If that's the case, I'll wait for him at Fort 17. If he comes back, I'll have to trouble you to pass on my message. I'll be waiting for him at the dueling arena to complete the duel," Jian Wuk said calmly. Then, he turned around to leave. Ghostblade Heavenly Lord stopped him and tried to persuade him. "Brother Wuk, please don't be rash. Both of you are the most important combat forces in the extraterrestrial battlefield. If you get hurt because of a moment of anger, it'll be a great loss to the human race." Chu Kuangren was no longer the same as before. His combat strength was so strong that he could even kill someone like Bai Jiuexin. Although Jian Wuk was a powerful upper-level Heavenly Lord, Ghostblade Heavenly Lord felt that he was still 1 or 2 levels lower than Chu Kuangren. He was no match for Chu Kuangren. However, Jian Wuk had obviously misunderstood. He said solemnly, "Don't worry, General Ghostblade. Chu Kuangren is a rare talent. I know that. I'll be careful not to harm his life when I attack." General Ghostblade smiled helplessly at his words. "Who's afraid that you'll harm his life? I'm just afraid that he'll accidentally kill you." Seeing that his persuasion was ineffective, the Ghostblade Heavenly Lord could only sigh helplessly. He looked at Jian Wuk's departing figure and shook his head. "Brother Wuk, I wish you good luck." Not long after, news of Jian Wuk's challenge to Chu Kuangren spread throughout Fortress No. 17. Countless people were talking about it. After all, those in the top 100 of the Battle Merits leaderboard were considered to be top-notch figures. Besides that, Chu Kuangren's name had also gradually entered the public's attention. Many people were investigating this person's information. As the investigation went deeper, the people could not help but feel incredulous. Supreme Sage resisted the invasion of the demonic realm twice. Killed several emperors when he just ascended to the emperor realm. Ascended to the heavenly honorable realm in a few years. Was he even human? If the information is correct, then this Chu Kuangren is truly unprecedented. He stopped the invasion of the demonic realm twice. Just this alone is enough to earn him countless battle merits. That's right. If it weren't for him, Firmament Star would have fallen and become a demonic land. What's the point of us staying in the extraterrestrial battlefield then? Not bad. Tisk tsk, I can't believe Firmament Star has such a terrifying genius. But according to the information, this person's cultivation level is only a lower-level heavenly honorable. Can he be a match for Jian Wuk? I don't think so, but Jian Wuk won't be able to kill him either. The higher-ups won't want to see a genius like him get hurt. That's true, countless people were watching the upcoming battle. Today, a battleship arrived outside Fortress No. 17. Chu Kuangren got out of the battleship and kept it away. Then, his figure flashed and he used the spatial conveyor technique to arrive outside the general's residence. The soldiers' eyes lit up when they saw Chu Kuangren. "Brother Chu, you're back." "Yes, is the general around?" "He's inside." "Please go in, brother." The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable had once said that Chu Kuangren would not be guarded in any part of the general's residence. He could come and go as he pleased. After entering the general's residence, the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable walked up to Chu Kuangren and gave him a big hug. "Brother Chu, welcome back." Chu Kuangren smiled. The few of them then entered the Great Hall to catch up. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable brought up Jian Wuk's challenge. "Brother Chu, what kind of grudge did you have with Jian Wuk?" "It's nothing much. I just killed a commander of the swordsmen." Chu Kuangren laughed. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable's lips twitched. The commander of the swordsmen was at least an honorable realm cultivator, and there were not many of them in the swordsmen. Why did Chu Kuangren make them seem like they could be found anywhere? Then, Chu Kuangren told him about Jian Wuk. The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable, who was initially sympathetic towards the swordsman, suddenly stood up and slammed the table. "Humph, ungrateful people deserve to die. How dare this Jian Wuk come here and challenge you to a duel? How shameless of me to call him my friend." The Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable was furious. After all, Jian Wuk did not only expose Chu Kuangren's secret but also his precious granddaughter, Yan Honghua. New. Chapter 730. "Brother Chu, if you're not interested in this guy's challenge, I'll help you get rid of him," the Ghostly Blade Heavenly Honorable said. Because of Jian's betrayal, the Ghostly Blade Heavenly Honorable did not have a good impression of the swordsman. He even wanted to personally teach Jian Wuk a lesson. However, Chu Kuangren smiled and said, "There's no need to trouble you, General. Since this guy is here for me, let me go." After all, he did have a duel agreement with him. Fort number 17. At the arena. Large-scale battles between orthodoxies were not allowed in the extraterrestrial battlefield. That would only result in internal strife and weaken the Firmament Star's resistance against the Blood Tribe. Hence, the arena was established. Whether it was a personal grudge or a battle between orthodoxies, they could all be settled through the arena by sending out a small number of people. In every fort, there was an arena. These arenas were usually filled with people. After all, there were hundreds of millions of cultivators living in a fort. It was inevitable that there would be conflicts, so there was an endless stream of people coming to the arena. A young swordsman stood in one of the arenas. The swordsman had a long sword at his waist, and his aura was extremely sharp. This person was Jian Wuk. He had been waiting for Chu Kuangren in the arena for 10 days. In these 10 days, there were also some swordsmen who came to challenge him. Some of them wanted to step on him and climb up the ranks. There were also some who simply wanted to verify their sword principles with him. Jian Wuk did not reject any of these people. He accepted their challenges one by one and defeated them one by one. In these 10 days, 98 swordsmen had been defeated by Jian Wuk. Among them, there were many upper-level heavenly honorables. In these 10 days, Jian Wuk had fully proven his strength. Buzz, the long sword at Jian Wuk's waist suddenly vibrated twice. He slowly opened his eyes. "Someone's here to challenge me again." In front of him stood a young swordsman in a green robe. He was holding a long sword inlaid with jewels in his hand. "Challenger, state your name." "I'm Qingyi Jian. I'm here to experience Brother Wuk's sword techniques." "Bring it on then," Jian Wuk said calmly. The surrounding cultivators all turned their attention to Jian Wuk's arena with a playful look in their eyes. "Look, another person is going to challenge Jian Wuk. TSK, how many has it been? There are still people who dare to challenge him. This is the 99th, whoa, he's almost at the 100-win streak. As expected of someone in the top 100 of the war merit list. How many moves do you think this person can take? He should be able to take a dozen moves. Judging from his aura, this person is also an Empyrean. I should be able to fight for a while. Everyone discussed animatedly. Jian Wuk and the swordsman had already started fighting. Their swords clashed in the air, and the sword chi that burst out hit the walls of the dueling arena. Not long after, the swordsman who challenged Jian Wuk was defeated before he could even unleash his pocket world. He was sent flying by a sword strike. You're too weak. Jian Wuk sheathed his sword and said indifferently to the swordsman. Hearing his words, the swordsman's expression became extremely gloomy. He wanted to refute, but when he opened his mouth, he couldn't say a single word. How could he refute it? The other party had only used a few sword strikes to defeat him. Do I have the strength to refute? Damn it! The swordsman stood up and left unwillingly. When he was about to walk out of the arena, a young man in white walked towards him. After being defeated by Jian Wuk, this swordsman was in a bad mood. He didn't even give way. He raised his hand and sent out a wave of energy. Get lost. He was an Empyrean. If this wave of energy hit him, even an emperor would be overturned. However, when his energy landed on the figure in white, it was like a cool breeze hitting a piece of granite. It didn't have any effect. How can this be? The swordsman's expression changed. However, before he could react, he felt his shoulder being grabbed by someone. He instinctively activated his emperor's energy to resist. However, no matter how much he activated his emperor's energy, he couldn't move that fair and slender palm. He felt his entire body suddenly fly into the air. After a moment of dizziness, he crashed into the wall of the arena. The surrounding cultivators were dumbfounded. They only saw the young man in white stretch out his hand and grab the swordsman. Then, he threw the swordsman away as if he was throwing trash. The swordsman couldn't resist at all. After all, he was a Empyrean. Gulp, who was this person? The crowd swallowed their saliva. They carefully sized up the man in front of them. He had a tall and slender figure. He was dressed in white with a gorgeous longsword hanging on his waist. His black hair reached his waist. He was handsome and extraordinary. The person in front of them looked like a celestial being. Coupled with the fact that he had casually thrown an Empyrean away, it wasn't hard to imagine that he was definitely a top-notch expert. The eyes of the surrounding female cultivators were all transfixed. Oh my God, where did this little brother come from? He's too good-looking. Moreover, he's so strong. He easily threw an Empyrean away. There aren't many people in the entire fortress who have such strength. He's so handsome and so powerful. If he was from our 17th fortress, he would have become famous long ago. Why don't I know him? After so many years, I've finally found my Mr. Right. Sister, wake up. Compared to the exclamations of the surrounding cultivators, Jian Wuk's eyes lit up and a powerful aura erupted from his body. This aura swept the entire arena. Some of the starry-eyed female cultivators snapped out of their daze. What's with Jian Wuk's reaction? Could it be, Chu Kuangren, you're finally here? Jian Wuk stared at Chu Kuangren and said. The crowd came to a sudden realization. No wonder he had such a big reaction. It was because his opponent had arrived. He's Chu Kuangren. Tisk, looks like he's quite strong. Of course. How else would Jian Wuk challenge him? The crowd looked at him expectantly. Jian Wuk had waited for Chu Kuangren for 10 days. As for them, they had also been waiting for this battle for 10 days. Since you've come knocking on my door, how can I not come? I've said that if you want to fight, I'll accept your challenge anytime. Chu Kuangren said calmly. Then, he suddenly sighed and said, however, I'm starting to regret it now. Jian Wuk raised an eyebrow. Oh, you're afraid. No, it's because I've realized that you're no longer a worthy opponent. That's why I'm regretting it. After all, I don't want to waste my time on a weakling. Chu Kuangren looked like he was in a difficult position. He did not expect his strength to improve so quickly during this trip to the secret realm. Initially, Jian Wuk was still a worthy opponent. However, the gap between him and Jian Wuk had now widened. Chu Kuangren. You're too arrogant. Jian Wuk's face turned pale. He was starting to get angry. After all, he was an upper-level heavenly honorable of the swordsman race. He was ranked in the top 100 of the battle merits leaderboard. Aside from the Dao Lords, he was definitely one of the best in the foreign battlefields. Since when was he called a weakling? Forget it. I'll let my strength do the talking. Chu Kuangren took a step forward and arrived at the arena. New. Chapter 731. Chu Kuangren took a step forward and arrived at the arena. He stood with his hands behind his back and said, 3 moves. Oh, are you trying to say that you can defeat me in 3 moves? Jian Wuk gradually controlled his emotions and adjusted his battle state to its peak. When he heard Chu Kuangren say 3 moves, he was not angry. Instead, he laughed and looked at Chu Kuangren as if he was looking at an idiot. Defeat him in 3 moves? Are you kidding me? He was an upper Dao Lord. Although he was not at the level of a half-step Dao Lord like the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable or Bai Jueshin, if he went all out, even a half-step Dao Lord like the Ghost Blade Heavenly Honorable would not dare to say that he could defeat him in 3 moves. However, Chu Kuangren, who was in a lower realm than Jian Wuk, dared to say such a thing. What a joke! Jian Wuk was not the only one who thought so. The others shared the same thought. Some of the female cultivators looked at Chu Kuangren sympathetically. Sigh, his face is pretty good, but there's something wrong with his brain. No, you've misunderstood. Chu Kuangren smiled. I don't want to defeat you in 3 moves. I only need 1. What I meant was that I'll let you make 3 moves first. As soon as these words came out, the entire place fell silent. Everyone was stunned. Then, an uproar broke out. F*CK me, are you kidding me? This kid is too pretentious. Why didn't he fly out of the universe's boundary to defeat Jian Wuk in 1 move? That's right. Does he know what kind of existence he's facing? This fella is simply too ignorant. I thought he was some great figure, but it seems like he's just a braggart with a little bit of strength. Sigh, it's such a pity that his face is ruined. Go, Jian Wuk. Beat him to death. Go, cutie. Remember to protect your face when you get beaten up later. It's such a good face, it'd be a pity if it gets ruined. The crowd was in an uproar as they were all shocked by Chu Kuangren's speech. Some of them scolded him for being shameless, while some of them supported Jian Wuk. Some of the female cultivators could not bear to part with Chu Kuangren's face. Yan Honghua, who came to watch the battle, could not help but shake her head. Can't this guy keep a low profile? Beside her, Bai Lixue chuckled. I think Cutie has quite a character. Besides, he's really strong. After all, they had experienced the battle in the secret realm. They had a much better understanding of Chu Kuangren's strength than anyone else. In the dueling arena, Jian Wuk, who had just regained his composure with much difficulty, once again lost control of his emotions after hearing Chu Kuangren's words. His face turned green with anger. Control his emotions? Control my ass. Right now, all he wanted to do was to press Chu Kuangren against the ground. Watch my sword. The jet-black sword in Jian Wuk's hand instantly pierced through the void, leaving behind a black arc of light. It was wrapped with a large number of Emperor Qi Dao patterns. It was like a sword light that shot out from the darkness, piercing straight out. The sword was aimed at Chu Kuangren's chest. But he stood there, not moving an inch. Only when the sword was about to reach him did he raise 2 fingers and clamp the pitch-black sword in a way that no one could understand. The Dao runes and monarch Qi on the sword completely dissipated. Chu Kuangren had caught Jian Wuk's sword between 2 fingers. The cultivators who were prepared to watch the show were all stunned. They could not believe what they had just witnessed. Some of them even rubbed their eyes, wondering if they were dreaming. However, the truth was that Chu Kuangren had really caught the sword between his fingers. How is this possible? The crowd gulped. Their doubts were also the same for Jian Wuk. How could this be? How could his sword be blocked so easily and in such an inconceivable way? Small realm. Jian Wuk's eyes narrowed when he noticed something. A faint purple glow circulated around Chu Kuangren's 2 fingers. The Taoist patterns intertwined, and it seemed to contain a small realm. Some of the heavenly honorables who were watching the battle also noticed this. They could not help but look at Chu Kuangren with fear in their eyes. Compared to an emperor realm emperor, a large portion of a heavenly honorable's combat strength was reflected in the small realm. The strength of the small realm and its utilization were all important factors that affected a heavenly honorable's combat strength. Even for these heavenly honorables who had immersed themselves in the small realm for countless years, it was their first time witnessing someone using the small realm on 2 fingers. It was unbelievable. It's not easy for a heavenly honorable's small realm to grow bigger or smaller. To be able to control the small realm to a radius of a kilometer is already considered proficient, but to have it condensed at the tip of one's finger. This is unbelievable. This guy's utilization of the small realm is so good that even a Tao Lord might not be able to match him, let alone a heavenly honorable. How terrifying! The heavenly honorables were in awe, but Jian Wuk, who was in the arena, felt an unprecedented pressure. He let out a low growl and released his own small realm, wanting to fight against the small realm at Chu Kuangren's fingertips. However, he realized that the small realm at Chu Kuangren's fingertips was ridiculously strong. His small realm could not even move an inch. In the end, it was Chu Kuangren who released his fingers. Jian Wuk immediately retreated. He looked at Chu Kuangren fearfully. I can't believe you've improved so much in such a short time. How shocking. You still have 2 more moves. Take advantage of this opportunity and see if you can hurt me, Chu Kuangren said as he hooked his finger. Jian Wuk's lips twitched twice. He felt that Chu Kuangren's every word was provoking his Taoist core. He could not help but be enraged, and he was about to lose his rationality. Calm down, calm down. Jian Wuk took a deep breath and forced himself to control his emotions. He then channeled the Emperor's essence to its limit. Following that, he unleashed his small realm and enveloped the entire arena. Profound technique, Dark Void / Profound technique unleashed. Jian Wuk unleashed his sword, and a pitch-black sword ray that carried a destructive force tore through the void and headed towards Chu Kuangren. Within the sword ray, Taoist patterns intertwined and looked extremely mysterious. It was as if there was a black hole within it. That sword ray was powerful enough to destroy half of a small planet. However, Chu Kuangren's expression was still as calm as ever. He pointed a finger at the pitch-black sword ray, and the small realm at his fingertips landed on the sword ray. However, the sword ray that could destroy a planet could not destroy the small realm at Chu Kuangren's fingertips. On the contrary, it was gradually disintegrated by the small realm. Not long after, the black sword ray turned into nothingness. Chu Kuangren stood where he was, unscathed. His 2 fair and slender fingers were like white jade that had a crystalline luster. However, when the crowd looked at those 2 fingers, it was as if they were looking at the world's most terrifying killing weapon. They could not help but shiver. They all knew that if Chu Kuangren wanted to, he could easily destroy a small planet with those 2 fingers. You still have 1 more chance. Dark Void Piercer. Jian Wuk held the pitch-black long sword in his hand and stabbed it out. The sword ray was straight and as fast as a meteor. This move, it's useless. Chu Kuangren shook his head and smiled as he gently pointed a finger. The tip of his finger and the tip of the sword came into contact. The pitch-black longsword and Jian Wuk then turned into light spots and dissipated. A figure then emerged from the light spots and slashed at Chu Kuangren from another direction. That was Jian Wuk's true trump card. Shadow Clone Sword. Chapter 732. Heaven Origin Dojo. Chu Kuangren looked at the Daylord's emissary in confusion. The Daolord's emissary seemed to know that Chu Kuangren did not understand what he was talking about, so he explained, the Heaven Origin Dojo is a firmament secret realm that has been passed down since ancient times. The Heaven Origin Dojo was a secret realm that was nurtured by the firmament star. In this secret realm, cultivators' Taoist enlightenment speed would be greatly increased, and there was a chance that they could learn their own profound mysteries. Even the Daolord would benefit greatly after entering the Heaven Origin secret realm. However, it was extremely difficult to open this secret realm as it required 10 Daolords to activate it at the same time. Moreover, it could only be opened for about 10 days each time. Hence, one had to be extremely careful when opening this secret realm. Opening the Heaven Origin Dojo requires the combined strength of 10 Daolords. Even in the extraterrestrial battlefield, there are not many who can enjoy this honor. Brother Chu, I'm really envious of you. The Daolord's emissary looked at Chu Kuangren with envy. Chu Kuangren smiled. Thank you very much, Daolord. If that's the case, when shall we depart? Chu Kuangren was quite interested in the Heaven Origin Dojo. After all, who would not love a place that could increase their Taoist enlightenment speed? Yes, the secret realm will open in 10 days. It will take us about 10 days to get there. Brother Chu, please get ready. We'll depart tomorrow. All right then. Chu Kuangren nodded. The next day, Chu Kuangren departed with the Daolord's emissary. Along the way, he heard some information about the Daolords from the Daolord's emissary. He found out that there were a total of 24 known Daolords in the extraterrestrial battlefield. These 24 people, including humans and beasts, were the pinnacle combat strength of the firmament star and the backbone of the battlefield. Among them, there were 3 strongest Daolords. They were the Heavenly Yellow Daolord, the Dharma Daolord, and the Bright Moon Daolord. The Daolords are the strongest in the firmament star. Every Daolord is a sage who has existed for countless years and represents the pinnacle of cultivation in the firmament star. The Daolord's emissary said with admiration. Chu Kuangren was deep in thought as he listened from the side. In the past, he had once chatted with the Chaos Tao Master in the Burial Emperor's coffin about the ancient times, so he knew some things about the Tao Master. However, the Chaos Tao Master had mentioned a few Tao Masters to him, but he hadn't heard about the rest from this Tao Master's envoy. Among the 24 Tao Masters, other than the Black-Yellow Tao Master, whom he had heard about from the Chaos Tao Master, the rest were nowhere to be found. Could it be that the Chaos Tao Master's old friends had already passed away? Chu Kuangren arrived at the Sky Origin Dojo with doubts in his heart. In the Tianyuan Dojo, on a small planet near the 30th fortress, some people had already gathered there. Each of these people was filled with an incredibly surging emperor's aura, and the weakest among them was an upper-level heavenly venerate. Just like Chu Kuangren, they too wanted to enter the Sky Origin Dojo. The heavenly Taoist rite was a method that the Taoist masters used to reward the cultivators with outstanding battle merits. This time, Chu Kuangren had provided a large number of secret realm treasures to the extraterrestrial battleground, killing hundreds of millions of blood tribe cultivators. This battle achievement could not be said to be small. Hence, he was given the opportunity to enter the Sky Origin Dojo. The rest of the people, like him, had also achieved amazing battle merits and were given the opportunity to enter the Sky Origin Dojo. Not all of them had achieved battle merits recently, but they might have done so in the past or slowly accumulated over a long period of time. It was just that they were put together by the Taoist masters to enter the Sky Origin Dojo. When Chu Kuangren arrived, the eyes of many cultivators lit up as they looked at him curiously. Some of them were familiar with Chu Kuangren, but at the same time, they were unfamiliar with him. They were familiar with him because they had already paid attention to him before he grew up, but they were unfamiliar with him because this was their first time meeting him in person. Greetings, fellow Taoists. When Chu Kuangren arrived, he greeted the crowd. These people in front of him could be considered his seniors. Before he came to the extraterrestrial battleground, these people were already fighting for the firmament star. Chu Kuangren still had some respect for these people. Ah, nice to meet you, Brother Chu. A few days ago, I saw your name suddenly appear in the top 50 of the combat leaderboard. I was wondering if I could see you here, and here you are. Little brother, you look so handsome. A charming female cultivator walked up to Chu Kuangren and reached out to touch him from head to toe. Her eyes were filled with a wolfish gaze. Chu Kuangren could not help but shudder at the sight. He subtly took 2 steps back. Senior, please mind your manners. Hee hee, the female cultivator giggled and licked her red lips. Little guy, you're really interesting. I really want to eat you up. As she said that, she could not help but reveal a fluffy white fox tail behind her that rubbed against Chu Kuangren's body. She was a demon, and her true form was a heavenly fox. You sly fox, don't scare me away. Beside her, a burly man laughed and said to Chu Kuangren, I'm Honorable Sky Bull of the Ox Demon Tribe. Nice to meet you, Brother Chu. The burly man had a horn on his head. He was a demon. Honorable Sky Bull, Chu Kuangren said with a fist salute. As he spoke, that fluffy fox tail brushed against his cheek, and she even wanted to stuff it into his mouth. However, Chu Kuangren grabbed it and said helplessly, Senior, you're making it hard for me to do this. Little brother, you're hurting me. The fox demon's face was flushed red, which made her look extremely charming. She kept her fox tail and said, Then let me introduce myself. My name is Hu Fei, but you can call me Lil Fei too. You're the only one who's allowed to call me that, little brother, she winked at Chu Kuangren. Nice to meet you, Brother Hu. Chu Kuangren pretended not to see it. The honorable ones beside him also came up to introduce themselves. Without exception, these people were all in the top 50 of the battle points leaderboard. Even some of the Fort Lord's battle points were not as good as theirs. Everyone's here, right? At that moment, an indifferent voice suddenly sounded. In the void, a white figure suddenly appeared. It was an old man with white hair and a glint in his eyes. Upon seeing the old man, everyone at the scene could not help but straighten their faces. Even the mischievous Hu Fei put away her charm and bowed to the old man like everyone else. Greetings, Taoist Master. Yes, the 12 of you honorable ones have outstanding battle points, so we'll be opening the Sky Origin Dojo for all of you. Remember, you only have 10 days, so make the most of it. Yes, Honorable Lord. The crowd was filled with anticipation. Then, the Taoist master gently raised his hand, and a large white door appeared in the void. Everyone, let's open the dojo together. The Taoist master said. Spiritual chi surged between the heavens and the earth, and 9 different rays of light that contained mysterious Taoist markings came from the sky. Just a glance at them was enough to dazzle the honorable ones at the scene. Those were the Taoist master's Taoist markings. The 9 Taoist masters' energies struck the white door. Meanwhile, the white-haired Taoist master unleashed a palm attack. With a loud bang, the white door slowly opened. Chapter 734. The white door suddenly opened. A mysterious aura spread out, and everyone could only see a vast expanse of whiteness beyond the door. It was a world that was hard to fathom. Is this the Sky Origin Dojo? Time is of the essence. Let's hurry in. Chu Kuangren and the others turned into streams of light and entered the Sky Origin Dojo. The group arrived at a vast expanse of whiteness. It was as if there was nothing in this space, but upon closer inspection, there were countless mysterious Taoist patterns scattered around. These Taoist patterns seemed to contain everything in this world, including the origin of the world. I can feel that my understanding of the Tao is increasing rapidly in this space. It's clearer than ever before. Me too, time is of the essence. Let's begin to understand our own Tao. The heavenly honorables began to sit with their legs crossed. Chu Kuangren did the same. The 12 heavenly honorables each found a place to gain enlightenment. Among them, Chu Kuangren's enlightenment was the strongest. In fact, it far surpassed the other 11 heavenly honorables. It did not take long for him to find the feeling. Time passed, and soon, 2 days had passed. Taoist patterns flowed on the surface of Chu Kuangren's body. The level of its mysteriousness had exceeded the limits of an heavenly honorable. This is the ultimate mystery. The Tao Lords who had been watching the Sky Origin Dojo were shocked. Originally, he was the first person in the history of the human race to possess the ultimate Emperor Yuan. I never thought that he would be able to comprehend the ultimate Emperor Yuan in the Tianyuan Dojo. This is truly shocking. One of the Tao Lords could not help but exclaim. The other Tao Lords shared the same sentiment. They had been watching Chu Kuangren's growth all this while. However, they did not expect his growth to be so much faster than they had imagined. It had only been a few years, and he had already become a heavenly honorable. He could even kill a Tao Lord. Although Bai Jueshin had used a Tao Lord's blood essence to forcefully increase his cultivation level, he was still a Tao Lord. Although Chu Kuangren had the support of the secret realm origin, the fact that he could kill Bai Jueshin was enough to shock them. This kid must have become an emperor in the Burying Emperor Coffin. TSK, the Burying Emperor Coffin. That's the place where the Chaos Tao Lord is sealed. I wonder if this kid's ultimate emperor energy is related to the Chaos Tao Lord. At that moment, one of the Tao Lords suddenly said. Upon hearing this, the other Tao Lords fell silent. Alright, regardless of whether he is related to the Chaos Tao Lord or not, let's not talk about the Chaos Tao Lord in case we offend him. A Tao Lord said. They seem to be wary of the Chaos Tao Master. The others didn't say anything else. It only took him 2 days to comprehend the ultimate profoundness. There are still 8 days left. I wonder what other surprises he will bring us, one of the Tao Lords suddenly said with anticipation. Let's continue watching. In the Tianyuan Dojo. Chu Kuangren realized that he had reached a bottleneck in his understanding of the Tao after he had gained insight into the ultimate mystery. Even with the support of the Tianyuan Dojo, it was still extremely difficult for him to continue comprehending, so he woke up. He raised his hand, and a Tao pattern circulated in his palm. It was the manifestation of his Tao. His comprehension of the Tao was not much weaker than the Tao Masters. The only difference between them was cultivation. Cultivation was easy. With the universal cauldron physique, as long as he had enough resources, it would be a piece of cake for him to ascend to the Tao Lord level. In the eyes of outsiders, the highest cultivation realm in the firmament star since the beginning of time was nothing to Chu Kuangren. My understanding of the Tao is no longer weaker than the Tao Lords. All I need to do is find resources to improve my cultivation. There are still 8 days left. Even if I continue to comprehend, I won't make much progress. This Tianyuan Dojo is a little disappointing. Chu Kuangren gently shook his head with disappointment in his eyes. He glanced at the other heavenly honorables. Everyone was making good use of their time to carefully comprehend their own Tao. Unlike Chu Kuangren, who still had time to lament. There are still 8 days left. I need to find something to do. Chu Kuangren murmured. Suddenly, he saw a Taoist pattern from the corner of his eye. It was a Taoist pattern that was faintly discernible in this white space. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued, and he said in his heart, Shao AI, help me analyze the Taoist patterns in the Tianyuan Dojo. Yes, Master. The spirit of omniscience, Shao AI, began to operate. Analyzing, in the outside world. The Tao Lords who had been paying attention to the changes in the Tianyuan Dojo suddenly sensed something. They looked at each other in shock. Do you guys feel anything? It's a strange feeling. The Tianyuan Dojo seems to be being spied on by some unknown entity. I can't find the source of this anomaly. What's going on? The Tao Lords were inexplicably panicked. For countless years, they had stood at the peak of the firmament star's cultivation civilization. Very few things were out of their control. However, now that the Tianyuan Dojo under their control was experiencing an unknown anomaly that they could not understand, it made them feel uneasy. Calm down. The Tianyuan Dojo is a secret realm left behind by the heavenly Tao. It's not something that can be easily spied on. Perhaps this is the Tianyuan Dojo's own anomaly. One of the Tao Lords said. Upon hearing that, everyone nodded and felt slightly relieved. Meanwhile, in the Tianyuan Dojo, Chu Kuangren used the spirit of omniscience to analyze the Taoist patterns in the Tianyuan dojo and made a huge discovery. He realized that the Taoist patterns in the Tianyuan dojo were similar to his own heavenly punishment Taoist patterns. They both contained the power of the heavenly Tao. Understanding these Taoist patterns might be able to bring my heavenly punishment Taoist patterns to the next level, Chu Kuangren murmured with anticipation in his eyes. The heavenly punishment Taoist patterns were an important force against the deities. Although the strong cultivators of the deities were still sealed, who knew if they would break free in the future? Therefore, Chu Kuangren had never stopped studying the heavenly punishment Taoist patterns. How could he not be tempted by the Taoist patterns in the Tianyuan dojo? Since he wanted to do it, he began to understand the Taoist patterns in the dojo. These Taoist patterns were very mysterious, and they were even more difficult to understand than the secret realm origin that he had previously studied. However, Chu Kuangren did not give up so easily. He compared the heavenly punishment Taoist patterns with the Taoist patterns in the dojo and began to analyze and understand the Taoist patterns in the dojo. In less than 2 days, he was already in a good state. The 10-day period was almost up. On this day, the entire Tianyuan dojo suddenly shook. The heavenly honorables who were in closed-door meditation to understand their own Taoism were alarmed. What's going on? Why is there such a strange movement in the dojo? The Tao Lords were also shocked by this sudden turn of events. They tried to investigate and realized that the Taoist patterns in the Tianyuan dojo that had never changed since ancient times had begun to change. The Taoist patterns circled around Chu Kuangren on their own, and countless mysterious Taoist patterns also flowed out of Chu Kuangren's body. They emanated a majestic aura that resonated with the Taoist patterns in the dojo. At that moment, the heavenly Tao of the distant firmament star also resonated. Chapter 735. What the hell is going on? Why is there such a change in the Tianyuan dojo? What exactly did Chu Kuangren do? Forget it. Let's get the celestial sovereign out first. The Tao Lords looked at this scene in shock. After that, they grabbed the heavenly honorables out of the dojo. Soon, Chu Kuangren was the only one left in the dojo. He sat in the middle of the Tao pattern in the dojo, and his own heavenly punishment Tao pattern resonated with it. Vaguely, they seemed to be fusing together. The Tao Lords couldn't help but be stunned. It must be known that they had once studied the Tao markings in the Tianyuan dojo in an attempt to gain complete control of the Tianyuan dojo through this method. However, they had failed after countless years. However, Chu Kuangren was currently merging those Taoist patterns. This won't do. If we allow him to continue, I'm afraid he'll take away the entire Tianyuan dojo. He's stealing the power of Tianyuan dojo. How did this guy do it? The Tao Lords discussed among themselves. The Heaven Origin Dojo was extremely important as it was one of the most important secret realms in the firmament star. It was also the method they used to reward the heavenly venerables. If Chu Kuangren were to take it, they would suffer a great loss. We have to stop him. However, this person possesses the heavenly punishment Tao runes. Now that the heavenly Yuan Dojo's Tao runes have fused with him, it might be some sort of opportunity for him. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for us to stop him? The Tianyuan Dojo is about to be destroyed. I can't care about it anymore. Chu Kuangren is the first cultivator in the history of the firmament star to possess the ultimate emperor essence. Not only that, but he also has the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern. If we recklessly destroy his opportunities of fortune, what should we do if he becomes hostile towards us? A Tao Lord suddenly said. Chu Kuangren's potential was too great. It was so big that when it matured in the future, it might even be able to influence the entire situation of the foreign battlefields and end this war that had lasted for countless years. It would not be a good thing for either Chu Kuangren or themselves if they were to form a grudge against such a person. This guy, why did he do this all of a sudden? A Tao Lord said in dissatisfaction. Contact the others and ask for their opinions. Let the other celestial venerables leave first. Honorable Empyrean Bull, Hu Fei, and the other heavenly honorables gathered together and stared at Chu Kuangren in disbelief. I've always heard that Chu Kuangren is good at surprising people. Now it seems that it's true. What did he do to make the dojo react like this? Just as the heavenly venerables were discussing, the Tao Master's voice suddenly rang out. All heavenly venerables, retreat from Tianyuan planet. The heavenly honorables looked at each other. They knew that the Tao Lords were going to do something to Chu Kuangren. But they didn't have any chance to intervene. They were well aware of the importance of the Sky Origin Dojo, so they would not be surprised if the Taoist masters were to fall out with Chu Kuangren for the sake of this dojo. Fellow Taoist Chu is the future cornerstone of the Outer Realm battlefield. I hope that the Taoists can be more lenient towards him when making decisions. Hu Fei gritted her teeth and suddenly said. Everyone was very surprised to hear her words. They did not expect her to suddenly plead for Chu Kuangren. TSK, don't tell me you've fallen for him. Honorable Empyrean Bull was amazed, but he then turned to the Taoist masters and said, the fox is right. Fellow Taoist Chu's talents will definitely play a huge role in the Outer Realm battlefield in the future. I hope that the Taoist masters can be more lenient towards him. The others looked at each other, and a few of them spoke up as well. The Taoist masters remained silent for a while before he said indifferently, we'll make our own decisions regarding this matter. You may all leave now. Upon hearing that, everyone glanced at Chu Kuangren before they left. Not long after, 24 figures appeared in the void. They were the 24 known Taoist masters of Firmament Star, and they were the ones who firmly controlled the situation on Firmament Star. The Sky Origin Dojo has really changed. It's indeed merging with this person's Taoist patterns. I believe it won't be long before this Sky Origin Dojo is either going to have a new owner or be destroyed. This Sky Origin Dojo has never truly belonged to anyone, so how could it have a new owner? Alright, what do we do now? Let's make a decision. Everyone first studied Chu Kuangren's current situation, then they discussed how to deal with this matter. Most of the Taoist masters had their eyes on 3 people. They were the Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master, the Dharma Taoist Master, and the Bright Moon Taoist Master. These 3 were also the strongest among the 24 Taoist masters. We cannot afford to lose the Sky Origin Dojo. Stop him from continuing. A tall man in a golden robe said. This person was the Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master, one of the 3 Taoist masters. Everyone's eyes flickered when they heard him. They did not expect him to be so decisive. I thought you wouldn't even pretend to think about it. I didn't expect you to be so eager to kill him without even pretending. A chuckle was heard. The Dharma Taoist Master, who was beside the Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master, spoke. He was dressed in a white robe, had a handsome face, and had a sense of elegance and elegance. The Sky Origin Dojo must be in our hands. The Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master said indifferently. Don't make it sound so nice. Aren't you trying to kill Chu Kuangren because you think he might be related to the Chaos Taoist Master? Oh Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master, it's been so many years, but you're still so petty. The Dharma Taoist Master sneered. He glanced at Chu Kuangren and said, Chu Kuangren's potential is immeasurable. He'll definitely grow into a force that can control the extraterrestrial battlefield in the future. I won't allow anyone to hurt him in front of me. Then you'll have to watch as the Sky Origin Dojo gets out of control. The Sky Origin Dojo versus a force that can affect the situation of the extraterrestrial battlefield. Do you need me to teach you how to choose between these 2 choices? That's only in the future. No one can predict what will happen in the future. Who knows if he'll encounter any accidents along the way? Since ancient times, have there been so many Sky Prides who have fallen along the way? The Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master said. As long as you don't play any tricks in the dark, he'll definitely grow into a Taoist Master under my protection, the Dharma Taoist Master said. If that's the case, then let's vote. The Heavenly Yellow Taoist Master said. The Dharma Taoist Master's heart sank when he heard that. Then, he looked at the Bright Moon Taoist Master. The Bright Moon Taoist Master was silent for a while before he said, this is the human race's matter. The Taoist masters of the demon race shall remain neutral. The Bright Moon Taoist master and the other 3 Taoist masters gave up. Now, there were only 20 Taoists left. Now, those who don't agree with interrupting Chu Kuangren, please raise your hand. The Heavenly Yellow Taoist master said. Apart from the Dharma Taoist master, only a few people raised their hands. As for the others, most of them just stood there and looked down. The Heavenly Yellow Taoist master was the strongest among the 3 Taoist masters, and he had the most authority as well. Half of the 24 Taoist masters followed his lead. Alright, the result is obvious. The Sky Origin Dojo cannot be lost. Now, let's interrupt Chu Kuangren. The Heavenly Yellow Taoist master said. However, at that moment, a cold voice rang out. Oh, a vote? I wonder if I have the right to vote. Chapter 736. Oh, a vote, huh? I wonder if I have the right to vote. A cold voice suddenly rang out. A woman dressed in white slowly walked over. She was only a heavenly honorable, and her aura was not even as powerful as Chu Kuangren's. However, everyone could not help but narrow their eyes when they saw her. The Dharma Taoist master could not help but reveal a look of joy. It's her. I can't believe she would suddenly appear here. This aura, it's so weak. Rumor has it that when she became the eye of the array, she used some kind of secret technique to sever a part of her soul and reincarnate. Now it seems that it was true. This should be her reincarnation. The first female emperor, Luo Shui. It was the former headless female emperor, Luo Shui. She was now a heavenly honorable. However, her heavenly honorable cultivation was not the reason why she dared to face the Taoist master. Her true strength was her other identity. The first female emperor. Brother Luo Shui, do you want to protect Chu Kuangren too? Yes. Luo Shui replied calmly. She looked at the Heavenly Yellow Taoist master and said, if you dare touch him, I'll kill you once I return to the Taoist master realm. You. The Heavenly Yellow Taoist master's expression darkened. To him, the current Luo River was not even worth mentioning. He could easily kill a heavenly honorable with one hand. However, Luo Shui was the first female emperor, and she had used her body as the formation core to protect the heavens for 12 eras. Just this merit alone was something that he could not ignore. Not to mention that although Luo Shui had become the formation core, she had not fallen yet. Who knew if she would come out in the future? Alright, if you want to protect Chu Kuangren, that's fine. But even with you, you only have 7 votes. I have 14 votes here. What if you include us? A voice rang out. A green-robed figure appeared in the void. The Taoist masters could not help but exclaim when they saw him. The first heavenly executioner. TSK, I can't believe he's here too. Interesting. This Chu Kuangren is quite powerful. The Dharma Taoist master, heavenly executioner, and Luo Shui are all standing up for him. The green-robed man, who was the first heavenly executioner, smiled and said, this person possesses the power of heavenly punishment, and I'm curious about his transformation. So, we, the heavenly executioners, will protect him. The mysterious yellow path master's face darkened. Seeing that he didn't reply for a long time, the green-robed man frowned. What's wrong? Don't tell me we don't even have this little bit of weight. Or do you think that the heaven's executioner can no longer intimidate you? The green-robed man's tone gradually deepened. In the depths of the universe, several terrifying auras erupted. It seems like some people are getting arrogant. Interesting. Back then, when I was fighting the gods, some of you couldn't even hold your swords properly. Tao Lords, even though we're injured right now, but if we were to fight, then believe it or not, I'll trade 1 for 2 with all of you. I'll protect this child. If any of you dare to touch him, I'll make you pay even if I have to risk my life. The heavenly executioner's imperial will came from the cold universe. Cold killing intent filled the entire planet of Heaven's origin sector. The expressions of all the Tao Lords changed. The 9 heaven executioners were the personal guards of the human king back then. Their achievements in the battle against the gods were still fresh in their minds. Xian Huang, tell us, do we have the right to vote? The green-robed man said indifferently. Yes. In the end, the Xian Huang Dao Lord could only nod helplessly. Very well, now it's 16 to 14 votes. No one is to stop this kid from continuing to merge with the heaven's Taoist marks. The green-robed man said. Then, his figure turned into countless light spots and disappeared. The Dao Lords did not leave. They stayed where they were and watched as Chu Kuangren continued to merge with the heaven's Taoist marks. They wanted to see what would happen to him. The 10-day limit had long passed. However, because of Chu Kuangren's existence, the heaven's Taoist marks did not close. That surprised the Dao Lords. Meanwhile, inside the dojo, the heaven's Taoist marks and the heavenly punishment Taoist marks were gradually merging, forming a vast surge of heavenly Tao energy. The heaven's Taoist marks were formed from a portion of the energy left behind by the heavenly Tao, and Chu Kuangren's heavenly punishment Taoist marks are also part of the heavenly Tao's energy. What will happen when the two of them merge? The things that this person has done are too unimaginable. I wonder how far he'll grow in the end. While the crowd was discussing, the heavenly punishment Taoist marks had completely merged with the heaven's Taoist marks. Chu Kuangren suddenly opened his eyes. His pitch-black eyes did not have the slightest human emotion. They were as cold as ice. A majestic heavenly aura emanated from his body, and the Dao Lords at the scene felt like they were being suppressed by this heavenly aura. They had a feeling that it was ridiculous. That the person standing in front of them was not a human. It was the heavenly Tao. In the depths of the universe, several light orbs were suspended in the air. These light orbs were the heavenly executioners. They were also paying attention to Chu Kuangren, and when they saw his appearance after merging with the heaven's Taoist marks, the light orbs could not help but tremble violently. One of the light orbs could not help but blurt out, "King." On the heaven origin planet. The heavenly yellow Dao Lord, Dharma Dao Lord, Luo Shui, and a few other Dao Lords could not help but narrow their eyes when they saw Chu Kuangren's current appearance. How is this possible? This appearance. Is this the human king? Impossible, impossible. The human king is dead, and he's been dead for many years. How can he appear again? The heavenly yellow Dao Lord's pupils trembled violently. For more than a dozen yuans, he had never lost his composure like he did today. Vaguely, there was a hint of fear in his eyes. Meanwhile, in the Taoist hall, Chu Kuangren was experiencing his current state. He felt as if he had connected with some kind of existence, and every move he made contained an unfathomable power. With a thought, Taoist rhymes began to sing around him. Dragons and phoenixes appeared, golden lotuses danced in the sky, deities and demons knelt, and the 10,000 sages worshipped him. An endless amount of domineering aura spread from his body. The Dao Lords could not help but feel their mouths go dry. With every move he made, heavenly Dao transformations appeared. This was no longer something that could be explained by power. Could this person really have transformed into the heavenly Dao? Shall AI analyze my current state? Chu Kuangren commanded in his mind. Yes. The omniscient spirit, Shao AI, began to analyze. Master, you are currently connected to the firmament star's heavenly Tao. You can use yourself as a medium to exercise part of the heavenly Tao's authority, including the heavenly punishment, birth of living beings, and heavenly transformations. After receiving the analysis, Chu Kuangren was speechless. Using the heavenly Tao's authority? What kind of power was that? It could be said that all living beings in Firmament Star were born from the heavenly Tao, and now, he could use the heavenly Tao's authority. Did that not mean that he had become everyone's tyrant? At that moment, the Heaven Origin Dojo began to collapse. The Taoist patterns in the dojo were formed from the heavenly Tao's power, and now that Chu Kuangren had absorbed and refined that power, the dojo naturally no longer existed. Chu Kuangren's heart skipped a beat when he saw that. No way. will the Tao Lords fight me to the death? He swore that he only intended to study the Taoist patterns and perfect the heavenly punishment Taoist pattern. Who knew that these two Taoist patterns would suddenly resonate and merge together? Chapter 737. Chu Kuangren activated his heavenly Tao mode. He nervously walked out of the collapsed Heaven Origin dojo and arrived before the Taoist masters. Then, he saw a familiar figure. Ah, it's her. Chu Kuangren was surprised to see Luo Shui here. The Taoist masters gradually regained their senses. Chu Kuangren, what happened to you just now? One of the Taoist masters asked impatiently. Chu Kuangren answered honestly. Everyone was in disbelief when they heard that. How did you manage to merge with the Heaven Origin Dojo's Taoist mark? The heavenly yellow Taoist master had regained his composure and asked. I just comprehended it, then merged it. The Taoist masters were speechless. Comprehended it? Then merged it? Could such an answer be any more perfunctory? This kind of opportunity of fortune has its own destiny. It's hard to explain. Chu Kuangren, you don't have to say anything more. Come with me. Luo Shui said. Chu Kuangren glanced at the Taoist masters and realized that they had no intention of stopping him. He could not help but be shocked. He had just destroyed the entire Heaven Origin dojo. Now that Luo Shui had said that he would bring him away, and the Taoist masters did not even try to stop him, it seemed that Luo Shui's identity was not simple. Chu Kuangren did not refuse and left the Heaven Origin planet with Luo Shui. Chu Kuangren. Human ruler, what's the relationship between these two? The heavenly yellow Taoist master could not help but mutter to himself as he watched Chu Kuangren leave. Deep within the universe, the heavenly enforcers were also deep in thought. Why did he look so similar to the king just now? The king used the same power too. Perhaps it's because of the original heavenly punishment power. Anyway, let's keep an eye on this kid's growth first. The heavenly enforcers talked for a while before they fell silent. Outside the Heaven Origin planet, a battleship was sailing. On the deck of the battleship, Chu Kuangren and Luo Shui stood together. Luo Shui was the first to speak. You took my head and made me search for it for a long time. Kid, aren't you going to say something? Senior, you've misunderstood. In your state at that time, I didn't dare to easily return your head to you. I was still very weak at that time. If you came over and slapped me to death, wouldn't I have nowhere to cry? Chu Kuangren said helplessly. Hearing his words, Luo Shui chuckled. That's true. Senior, how did you become like that? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. When this was mentioned, Luo Shui's eyes revealed a strand of coldness. Kid, let me warn you. You can't completely trust Tao Lords. Especially that dark yellow Tao Lord. He's a hypocrite who pretends to be sanctimonious. Could it be that Senior became like that because of him? That's not the case, but it's definitely related to him. It was another emperor who attacked me while I was breaking through to the Empyrean realm. Fortunately, I was lucky and cultivated a secret technique, which was why I was able to survive after my head was separated from my body. Luo Shui said calmly. It was as if she was not the one who had been beheaded. Who's that emperor? Black-Yellow Taoist Master's disciple, the current master of Fortress 31, Heavenly Venerate Selfless. Luo Shui said. So that's the case. Chu Kuangren nodded and took out the Chaos Emperor scripture. Senior, this Emperor scripture was entrusted to me by the Chaos Taoist Master to pass to you. Master, Luo Shui seemed to be in a trance for a moment. She looked at the Emperor scripture in her hand and shook her head. Unfortunately, I'm not a Taoist master yet. I still can't break the Emperor burying coffin and save my master. Aren't those Taoists going to help? Ha, the dark yellow Taoist master has a grudge against my master. He can't wait for my master to die in the Emperor burying coffin, so why would he save my master? Why would he let others do it? As for some of my master's old friends, they're like me, protecting Firmament Star with their bodies as formation cores, Luo Shui looked at Firmament Star as she spoke. In the sky above Firmament Star, there was a huge golden light barrier. It was the great formation that protected Firmament Star from the Blood Tribe's invasion. It had protected Firmament Star for 12 eras, the Hatred Heavens. Very few people knew about it. Back then, a huge price had to be paid in order to set up this great formation. Including Luo Shui, the 9 strongest Taoist masters in Firmament Star had worked together to become the formation cores. Only then did the formation was completed. If we didn't become the formation cores, the dark yellow Taoist master wouldn't have the right to speak in Firmament Star. Luo Shui scoffed. Let's go. Follow me to fortress number 31. Since I'm back, there are some things that need to be settled. Fortress number 31 was where the Heavenly Venerable No Hatred resided. She was also the person who had caused Luo Shui to be beheaded. A few days later, a warship arrived at Fortress number 31. Luo Shui went straight to the general's residence in the fortress. When he raised his hand, a golden palm print fell like a meteor from the heavens. With a loud bang, the entire general's residence shook. One by one, figures flew out. These people were all heavenly venerables. They stared at Luo Shui, and one of them said coldly, "How dare you offend the general's residence? Do you have a death wish?" Luo Shui said indifferently, "I'm only here to kill the heavenly venerable No Hatred today." "You want to kill the general? Dream on. Which fortress are you from? You're committing treason. The general has been guarding fortress number 31 for so many years. Who do you think you are to kill him just like that? Who do you think you are?" Luo Shui glanced at these people, and a disdainful smile appeared on her beautiful face. These people wanted to talk about merits with her. In the battle against the gods, she had slain countless gods that were sealed in the seal. Against the Blood Tribe, she became the formation core and protected Firmament Star for 12 eras. These merits were not something that the Heavenly Venerable No Hatred could compare to. Whoosh, a figure walked out of the general's residence. It was a middle-aged man in black armor with a majestic aura. When he saw Luo Shui, his eyes narrowed slightly. "You're finally back. Since I'm back, you should know that you're about to die. Since you've contributed to humanity, I'll allow you to kill yourself." "Ha, as expected of the greatest empress. Even though you're reincarnated, you're still as graceful as before. However, you're only a middle heavenly venerable now. Do you think you're a match for me?" The heavenly venerable No Hatred laughed. Then, the aura of a half-day lord erupted. "Fool!" With a lift of Luo Shui's arm, an incredibly powerful lesser world suddenly appeared and suppressed all the heavenly venerables present. Even the heavenly venerable No Hatred could not help but be shocked. "It's true that I'm a middle heavenly venerable, but don't forget that I was once a Tao Lord. My understanding of the Tao is real. You want me to surrender? Impossible. Fight." The heavenly venerable No Hatred made his move. Similarly, a lesser world erupted from his body. The other heavenly venerables were about to attack too, but at that moment, an invisible barrier separated them from the heavenly venerable No Hatred and Luo Shui. Where did this barrier come from? Who's there? This barrier seems to contain the lesser world's energy. One of the heavenly venerable attacked the barrier. Amidst the explosion, the barrier remained intact. Chu Kuangren stood not far away and smiled at the heavenly venerables. "You guys should just watch from the sidelines." Chapter 738. You guys shall watch this battle from the sidelines. Chu Kuangren stood not far away and said calmly. Meanwhile, Luo Shui and Heavenly Honorable Heartless had already entered the void to battle. Their mini-worlds erupted and shook the void. The battle was intense. One was a half-step Tao Lord, while the other was a reincarnated Tao Lord. Chu Kuangren was also watching the battle. Once Luo Shui fell into a disadvantageous position, he would make his move. However, Luo Shui was indeed the reincarnated empress. Although her cultivation level was far from heavenly honorable heartless, she was able to fight on par with her opponent with her insights as a Tao Lord. She even seemed to be able to suppress her opponent. Looks like I don't have to do anything. Chu Kuangren smiled. Meanwhile, the heavenly honorables of Fort 31 wanted to rush into the void to help when they saw that their general was at a disadvantage. However, with Chu Kuangren around, they could not do anything. The heavenly honorables looked at each other. Let's deal with this person first. That's right. Let's go. The heavenly honorables flew towards Chu Kuangren, and one after another, their mini-worlds erupted and enveloped Chu Kuangren. All sorts of mystical techniques locked onto him. Dragon Exploring Palm. Divine Light Sword Art. Killing Fist, Universe Shaker. The heavenly honorable mystical techniques shook half of the fort. Countless cultivators were shocked. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, who was locked onto by the heavenly honorable small worlds and targeted by the mystical techniques, stood still and let the mystical techniques hit him. He gently lifted his arm, and mysterious Taoist patterns intertwined to form a giant vortex that absorbed all the mystical techniques. I told you to watch obediently. Don't you understand? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. With a shake of his palm, the mystical techniques that were absorbed were rebounded back at the heavenly honorables. Boom, boom, boom. After a few explosions, the heavenly honorables were sent flying. What's with this mystical technique? Premium mystical technique? No, I'm afraid it's above the premium mystical technique. Ultimate mystical technique. The heavenly honorable's eyes trembled violently. Mystical techniques were something that countless emperors could not understand in their lifetime. Since the beginning of the firmament star's cultivation history, not many people had been able to understand it. Now, an ultimate profundity had appeared before their eyes. Also, the usage of your lesser realms is too crude. Let me teach you guys a lesson, Chu Kuangren said. He snapped his fingers. In the void, faint purple chains suddenly flew out. These chains were condensed from the purest emperor qi. After being transported by spatial transportation techniques, they could move freely in the void. However, that was not the strongest aspect of these chains. The most terrifying aspect of these chains was that they contained Chu Kuangren's lesser realm. Chu Kuangren named this technique the World Lock. Whoosh, 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 the purple world lock shuttled through the void. The Empyreans present simply couldn't keep track of the trajectory of the world lock. They were somewhat flustered. What the hell is this thing? Damn it, the chains shuttled back and forth, binding the limbs of several Empyreans in a short while. They hung in midair, unable to move. This scene caused the hearts of all the cultivators in the fortress to palpitate. Heavens, that's a heavenly sovereign. The celestial sovereign is actually suspended in midair. How did he do that? Who's this young man? I know him. He's Chu Kuangren, ranked 31st on the battle points leaderboard with 100 million battle points. What? 100 million battle points. Our fortress's general only has a little over 70 million battle points, and he has 100 million battle points? Chu Kuangren. It's him. The cultivators in the fortress discussed among themselves. Chu Kuangren did not care at all. The Empyreans were suspended in midair with the world lock, unable to resist at all. In the void, the battle between Luo Shui and Empyrean Honorable Heartless was coming to an end. Luo Shui used his Tao understanding that far surpassed Empyrean Honorable Heartless to forcefully suppress his opponent. After seizing an opportunity, a black longsword suddenly appeared in his hand and slashed across Empyrean Honorable Heartless' head. With a ripping sound, his head was separated from his body. Empyrean Honorable Heartless' head was tossed high into the air. Luo Shui used his longsword to catch the head and said indifferently, "I can live without my head, but you can't." As soon as he said that, the Emperor's chi surged. The head exploded into a mist of blood. Empyrean Honorable Heartless had fallen. After slaying his enemy, Luo Shui walked out of the void. She also saw the Empyrean honorables who were suspended in midair by the world lock, and she could not help but reveal a strange look in her eyes. You're quite good at using the little realm. It's all right. Chu Kuangren smiled faintly. When the Empyrean honorables saw that Empyrean honorable Heartless was killed, one of them yelled angrily, "All of you are dead." Empyrean Heartless is the disciple of the heavenly yellow Taoist master. Now that you've killed him, there will no longer be a place for you in the extraterrestrial battlefield. Just you wait for your deaths. Luo Shui did not care at all when he heard his arrogance. At that moment, golden clouds suddenly surged in the distance, and within the clouds, a golden figure suddenly appeared. It was a man with a golden jade token in his hand and a crown on his head. Upon seeing him, the Empyrean Honorable laughed out loud. It's the Taoist Master's emissary. The Taoist leader's emissary is here. You're all dead now. The man flew up into the sky and glanced at the Empyrean Honorable. However, he quickly looked away and announced, by the Taoist leader's decree, from now on, Fort 31 shall be under Luo Shui's control. All soldiers in the fort shall obey her orders without fail. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard the decree. Their first reaction was, who is Luo Shui? However, they then stared at Luo Shui. It can't be, can it? It can't be her, can it? Congratulations, General Luo Shui. The Taoist leader smiled at Luo Shui, confirming everyone's suspicions. The Empyrean Honorable, in particular, had their mouths and eyes wide open in disbelief. Not only did she kill Empyrean Heartless, but she also became the new master of Fort 31, their new superior. Could this be any more ridiculous? However, the truth was right in front of them, and they had no choice but to believe it. They knew very well. Luo Shui's background was most likely even more terrifying than Empyrean Heartless. Otherwise, she could not have done what she did. Chu Kuangren, let them go. Luo Shui said. All right. Chu Kuangren snapped his fingers, and the world lock instantly disappeared. When the heavenly honorables regained their freedom, they looked at Luo Shui and Luo Shui with complicated gazes. There was doubt and shock in their eyes. Since the Taoist leader had personally issued the decree, the outcome was set in stone. They had no room to refute and could only obediently accept their fate. Greetings, General. The heavenly honorables walked up to Luo Shui and bowed. They could not help but feel a little anxious. They wondered if the general would blame them for their impudence just now. Luo Shui glanced at them and said, the grudge between me and Empyrean Heartless will not implicate anyone else. All of you are still the commanders of the general's residence. Just do what you're supposed to do from now on. Thank you, General. The heavenly honorables heaved a sigh of relief. Then, Luo Shui looked at the Taoist leader and said, go back and thank the Taoist leader for me. I'll accept this gift. Among the 24 Taoist leaders, the only one she was more familiar with and trusted was the Taoist leader. Thank you, General. I shall take my leave then. The Taoist leader left after passing down the decree. Chapter 739. Luo Shui took over Fortress 31, and many people knew that the greatest empress of all time was gradually returning. The return of the Luo River and the taking over of Fortress 31 is a good or bad thing. What kind of impact will it have on the current structure? It would be fine if he's just an ordinary fort master. However, this person is the former Water Path Master. Furthermore, he's the Chaos Path Master's proudest disciple. There's an irreconcilable enmity between him and the Black-Yellow Path Master. In front of the blood race, I hope they can let go of their grudges. That's all we can do. It's just that, with the personality of the Black-Yellow Sect Master, is it possible? On a certain planet. The mysterious Yellow Path Master looked in the direction of the fortress in the distance. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. What a Luo Shui. You killed Heavenly Lord Heartless the moment you returned. You're trying to show me your strength. The current Luo Shui was merely an Empyrean. He did not pose much of a threat to him. Moreover, He knew that even if Luo Shui had recovered to the Tao Lord realm, she wouldn't act rashly against him. At the very least, she would absolutely not do something that would cause the top-rate combat strength of Firmament Star to suffer while under the threat of the Blood Tribe. However, this did not mean that he could sit back and relax. Once Luo Shui becomes the Daoist Master, he'll definitely rescue the Chaos Daoist Master. Coupled with the Dharma Daoist Master. When that happens, my influence in the Firmament Star will be greatly reduced. I can't let that happen. Luo River, Primal Chaos, and Human King. Why are you guys always haunting me? The Dark Yellow Path Master murmured. His current status in the Firmament Star could be said to be supreme. In the extraterritorial battlefield, almost half of the 24 Daoist Masters followed his lead. Hundreds of millions of Firmament cultivators in the 81 fortresses were also under his command. He would never allow anyone to ruin all of this. Aside from the Luo River, I should think of a way to deal with those heavenly executioners and the former sovereign personage's personal guards. The heavenly yellow Tao Lord recalled the scene when the heavenly executioner protected Chu Kuangren. His aura instantly suppressed the other Tao Lords. It made him even more restless. Once the heavenly executioners fully recovered their strength and joined forces with Luo Shui and the Tao Master of Chaos, he would have even less of an advantage. They might be the best weapon against the heavenly executioner. The heavenly yellow path master murmured as he gazed at the distant Firmament Star. The other side. Within Fortress 31. In the general's manner, Chu Kuangren was sitting with his legs crossed as he tried to gain insights on the heavenly punishment Daoist pattern that had been fused with the Sky Natural Dojo's Daoist pattern. The Sky Punishment Tao pattern was even more perfect than before, and it gave him a feeling that it was closer to the mysterious Heavenly Tao. The power of the Heavenly Tao. Interesting. The state I was in earlier was connected to the Heavenly Tao, and it was as if I'd become one with it. Let's call it the unification of the Tao state for now. Once I enter the unification of the Tao state, I'll borrow the power of the Heavenly Tao. To what extent will my combat strength reach? Chu Kuangren was secretly looking forward to it. The unification Tao state, the ultimate profoundness, the immortal stellar physique, time halt. Chu Kuangren had too many trump cards at his disposal. He felt that even a Tao master could be killed by him. I really want to fight with a Tao master. Chu Kuangren was eager to try it out. As for the Empyreans, they were no longer a threat to him. At this time, the communication artifact at his waist suddenly vibrated. A message came in. Oh, it's Moonless Illumination. Chu Kuangren was slightly surprised. Moonless Illumination was a blood tribe heavenly honorable that he had controlled using the Soul Mastery Slave Seal not long ago. He had temporarily allowed him to hide among the blood tribe. However, at this time, he received a message. The Blood King of the White Tribe has issued a kill order for Master. Also, the Blood Tribe is gathering their troops. A great battle is about to begin. There was not much information, but it was enough for Chu Kuangren to take it seriously. Especially the last sentence. A great battle was about to begin. The Blood Tribe was going to make a big move. Dong, 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 just when Chu Kuangren was deep in thought. Suddenly, the sound of a bell rang in the stronghold. His eyes turned cold. This bell is the precursor to the Battle of the Crimson Firmament. The Battle of the Crimson Firmament. This was the cruelest battle in the extraterrestrial battlefield. It was also the battle where the Blood Tribe gathered their troops and launched a large-scale invasion. Each Battle of the Crimson Firmament was a disaster for the Firmament Star. The number of cultivators who died was in the hundreds of millions. In the past 10 or so years, there had only been 7 battles of the Crimson Firmament. According to incomplete statistics, the number of Firmament Star cultivators who died in these 7 battles was as high as 120 billion. Now, the 8th Battle of the Crimson Firmament was about to begin. The real battle is coming. Chu Kuangren took a deep breath. When he walked out of the room, he saw that every soldier in the general's residence had a serious look on their faces. There were also some new soldiers who looked a little scared. In the main hall of the general's residence, The newly appointed General Luo Shui was holding a military conference with the generals of the other 80 strongholds through some kind of communication method to discuss the next defensive arrangements. The conference lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Luo Shui sat on the chair with a headache. I've just been appointed and I'm already in the middle of a battle of the Crimson Firmament. Ha, I'm really lucky. At that moment, Chu Kuangren walked in. How's it going? This battle is inevitable. Make your preparations. I've already sent the various commanders to deploy their troops. The preparations for the other fortresses are almost done as well. Luo Shui said calmly. How many of the Blood tribe are here? This is the image from the front line. Luo Shui flicked his finger. A speck of light flew out and transformed into a light screen. In the light screen, there were battleships neatly lined up in the cold and silent universe. There were so many of them that they were uncountable. From small battleships that were a few hundred meters long to large battleships that were tens of thousands of meters long, there were at least hundreds of thousands of them. The number of Blood tribe cultivators on board was even more uncountable. This is only the vanguard of the Blood tribe. We don't know how many more there are at the back. This battle is going to be tough. Luo Shui said with a serious look. When will they arrive? In 10 days. Fort 31. Countless cultivators gathered at the edge of the fort's barrier. Luo Shui was the one leading them. Her emperor's thought surged and she had already sensed that the Blood tribe's troops were a few 100,000 kilometers away from the fort. This distance was very close. Some emperors and heavenly honorables could cross that distance in a few breaths. Beside the Luo River, Chu Kuangren had also sensed the approach of the Blood tribe cultivators. He suddenly had an idea and chuckled. Empress, why don't we give this vanguard troop a big present first? Oh, what do you have in mind? Ha! Chu Kuangren chuckled. With a lift of his arm, majestic Emperor's chi surged and he unleashed a palm attack into the distance. The palm chi swept across the sky and disappeared into the void. In the distance, the mighty Blood tribe's troops were advancing towards Fort 31. Suddenly, a palm chi descended from the sky. Amidst the explosion, a large amount of palm chi swept across the cosmic void. Dozens of battleships exploded like fireworks. Tens of thousands of Blood tribe cultivators died on the spot. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! One of the Blood tribe's heavenly honorables roared. His emperor's thought swept across the area, but he could not find anyone. That strange fluctuation just now was a spatial fluctuation. Chapter 740. Inside Fort 31. Some of the emperors and heavenly venerables had also sensed the Blood tribe troops in the distance, and their eyes lit up. They looked at Chu Kuangren in amazement. Brother Chu, I didn't expect you to have such a technique. Normally, the further the attack range, the weaker the power. However, Brother Chu's attack did not weaken even when it was 1,000,000 kilometers away. TSK, this technique is just too powerful. Ha, this is too useful on the battlefield. Everyone soon realized how powerful this ability was, and Luo Shui could not help but feel excited. What's the limit of this ability of yours? Chu Kuangren chuckled and leaped into the air. Everyone, attack me. Everyone looked at each other when they heard him. Luo Shui trusted Chu Kuangren very much. Attack! Since the general had spoken, the others immediately followed suit. In an instant, all kinds of energy blasted towards Chu Kuangren. Sword chi, palm force, saber ray, fire, frost, wind, and thunder, dazzling lights shone in the cold and silent universe. Chu Kuangren was enveloped in these lights, but he did not seem to care at all. With a lift of his hand, the spatial conveyor technique and the spatial teleportation technique from the Book of Time and Space were activated to the extreme. Around him, a large portion of the void was distorted. All the energy attacks entered the void around him and disappeared. The next moment, they appeared in the sky above the Blood tribe troops that were tens of thousands of kilometers away. It was as if a divine soldier had descended from the heavens, stirring up waves of energy storms. The Blood Tribe troops were caught off guard. One after another, their battleships were destroyed, and countless Blood Tribe cultivators were killed. D***, this is a spatial technique. Since when did a cultivator with such spatial techniques appear in the firmament star? I can't believe he can do this. This person's ability is too terrifying on the battlefield. F***ck, he's going to be beaten senseless before he even gets close. The Blood Tribe Emperors and Heavenly Venerables were dumbfounded when they saw Chu Kuangren's spatial conveyor technique. This spatial technique must be cheating. Quick, activate the battleship barrier. Heavenly Venerables, activate your mini-worlds and disrupt the space. After a moment of panic, the commanders of the Blood Tribe began to respond to this sudden attack. First, they activated the battleship's defensive barrier. Then, the Heavenly Honorable Lord activated his lesser world to disrupt the spatial structure. With this method, they temporarily stopped Chu Kuangren's spatial conveyor technique. However, Chu Kuangren's cultivation level was no longer the same as before. After a short pause, he had already analyzed the spatial structure of the Heavenly Honorable Small World and used his spatial conveyor technique to attack again. Although it was not as accurate as before. However, the vampires were densely packed and could easily hit their targets. Even with the warship's protection, they still suffered waves of damage. Humph. At this moment, a cold snort sounded from one of the warships. Following that, a blood-colored spear pierced through the air. In the blink of an eye, it had traversed a distance of millions of miles and was aimed at Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, who was in the midst of casting the spatial conveyor technique, naturally noticed the incoming spear. However, before he could react, Luo Shui had already blocked his path and swung his long saber at the spear. With a loud explosion, the surrounding void was swept up into a violent storm. The spear was sent flying hundreds of miles away by Luo Shui before it was caught by a hand. Unknowingly, a Blood Tribe cultivator dressed in blood-colored robes had appeared in front of everyone with a terrifying aura emanating from his body. A half-step Dao Lord. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes. Gradually, figures began to appear behind that person. They were the Blood Tribe's Heavenly Honorables. These Heavenly Honorables stared at Chu Kuangren with cold murderous intent. Good lad, I didn't expect a spatial cultivator like you to appear in Firmament Star. If we don't kill you first, I'm afraid the stronghold will be in trouble. That's right. We must eliminate this person first. The Heavenly Honorables crossed the millions of miles and arrived at the stronghold. Behind them, the countless cultivators of the Blood Tribe also drove their warships and rushed over as fast as they could against the energy attacks. Luo Shui said to Chu Kuangren, "Leave them to us." All right. Chu Kuangren nodded. He was not afraid of these Heavenly Honorables and half-step Dao Lords at all. However, he had chosen the method with the least casualties. First, he would deal with the Blood Tribe cultivators in large numbers to secure the upper hand in this battle. That way, the stronghold's cultivators would have an easier time dealing with them. Boom! The half-step Dao Lord of the Blood Tribe clashed with Luo Shui. The rest of the Heavenly Honorables also went up against their respective opponents. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren continued to use his spatial conveyor technique to attack the Blood Tribe's army from all directions, decimating the enemy's numbers. By the time the army arrived at the stronghold, less than half of the tens of thousands of warships were left. Attack! Attack! This was followed by a series of furious roars. The soldiers inside the stronghold rushed out. Warships collided with each other in the universe, and the emperors also clashed with each other. In the dark universe, all sorts of energy lights shone upon each other. It was beautiful, dreamy, and cruel. The war had broken out. Sword Chi Clone. Chu Kuangren stood in midair. Facing the densely packed Blood Tribe cultivators, he used the Sword Chi Clone that he had never used before. With his current cultivation level, he could unleash this Emperor technique even better than the creator of this Emperor technique, the Mindful Emperor. Tens of thousands of Sword Chi clones spread out from Chu Kuangren's body and spread across the battlefield. Each of these clones had at least the combat strength of a sage, and they were killing Blood Tribe soldiers everywhere. Since Chu Kuangren had used his spatial conveyor technique to attack earlier, only half of the Blood Tribe's army was left. Coupled with his sword chi clones, the 31st Stronghold's army had the upper hand. D*MN. Not only does this guy know spatial techniques, but he also has cloning techniques. These are all great weapons in a group battle. Coupled with his cultivation level, he alone is equivalent to an army. His destructive power is too great for low-level cultivators. The Blood Tribe's emperors and heavenly honorables were speechless. After all, a war was not always decided by the top combat strength. Low-level combat strength was also very important. After all, even ants could kill an elephant in numbers. If this goes on, our soldiers will all die. Retreat! The half-step Dao Lord of the Blood Tribe roared. Instantly, a large number of Blood Tribe soldiers fled in their warships. Run? Where do you think you can run to? Chu Kuangren chuckled coldly and unleashed his mini-world. The terrifying mini-world covered a radius of nearly 1,000,000 kilometers, enveloping the Blood Tribe's warships within it. There was nowhere to run. D*MN. The half-step Dao Lord of the Blood Tribe was shocked. While he was distracted, Luo Shui's saber had already slashed at his neck. Not good. The half-step Dao Lord's eyes narrowed as he blocked the attack with his spear. The saber and spear clashed. However, a huge force erupted and directly smashed the spear in his hand away. This saber had directly chopped off his head. With the death of their commander, the outcome of this battle was decided. Annihilate the Blood Tribe! Luo Shui roared, and his voice echoed throughout the battlefield. The morale of the 31st Stronghold was greatly boosted. The battle lasted for an entire day. Almost none of the Blood Tribe troops were spared. They were all annihilated. Chapter 741. General, in this battle, we've destroyed more than 8,160 Blood Tribe warships and killed close to 120 million Blood Tribe soldiers. This includes more than 130 Blood Tribe emperors and 11 heavenly honorables. A commander was reporting the battle situation to Luo Shui. What about our casualties? Luo Shui asked. 167 warships were destroyed. We lost more than 8 million soldiers, 11 emperors, and no heavenly honorables. Even the commander found it hard to believe when he finished. This number of casualties was too low. The Blood Tribe's casualties were dozens of times higher than theirs. Yes. Luo Shui nodded and looked at Chu Kuangren, who was not far away. She understood that Chu Kuangren's role in this battle was not to be ignored. Without his spatial conveyor technique and sword chi clones, their casualties would be at least 10 times higher. Brother Chu's abilities are too powerful on the battlefield. Yes, not bad. Luo Shui nodded. But we can't let our guard down. This is only the vanguard of the Blood Tribe. The battles to come will still be difficult. The Battle of the Crimson Firmament was a war of attrition. It could even last for decades. This was only the first battle. It was not even an appetizer. Then, Luo Shui received battle reports from the other fortresses. Other than the 31st fortress, the other fortresses had also repelled the Blood Tribe's first wave of attack. After all, this first wave of attack was only a test by the Blood Tribe. The real main force had not arrived yet. Even the Dao Lords had not made a move yet. Even so, the major fortresses had suffered more or less losses. The fortress that suffered the heaviest losses had even lost several heavenly honorables, and even the fort master had suffered significant damage. Under such circumstances, the fact that Fortress 31's losses were so negligible made it stand out even more. When they learned that it was all because of Chu Kuangren, the other fort masters were amazed and exclaimed that Luo Shui had gained a good helper. Fortress 31, you have to be careful. Although you have a helper like fellow Chu, the Blood Tribe is coming at you with great ferocity this time. Their next attack will definitely target fellow Chu, the Blood Tribe warned. Luo Shui was in a meeting with the generals of the other fortresses. Among them, the ghost blade Heavenly Honorable said solemnly. Luo Shui nodded to show that he understood. In the vast universe, there was a huge fleet of battleships. On one of the warships, 13 people were sitting around a huge round table, discussing something. These 13 people were the 13 Blood Kings of the Blood Tribe. There were dozens of light screens in front of the 13 Blood Monarchs. The light screens displayed the battle scene sent back from the front lines. Alright, this is the battle report from the front lines. Now, tell us what you think, said a Blood King indifferently. And this person was the strongest of the 13 Blood Kings, Wisdom King. I don't have any opinions on the other strongholds, but can anyone tell me what's going on with Stronghold 31? He actually lost so quickly, a black-robed Blood King said curiously. In the blink of an eye, a light screen appeared in front of everyone. A white-robed figure appeared on the screen. His clothes were as white as snow, untainted by even a speck of dust. His black hair reached his waist, and he was peerlessly handsome, like a celestial being. Oh, who's this guy? He's so handsome. I really want to capture him and play with him day and night. The Charm King, the only female among the 13 Blood Kings, could not help but light up when she saw Chu Kuangren's image. At that moment, a cold murderous intent erupted. It came from one of the Blood Kings. A strange look flashed across the Blood King's eyes. When they looked at Chu Kuangren again, they already had a guess. Could this person be the one that King White is after? Ha, interesting. The person who exuded murderous intent was the White King. He was also Bai Juexin's father. Alright, let's get back to business. The reason why the people who went to attack Stronghold 31 failed so quickly was because of this person. This person's name is Chu Kuangren, and he specializes in spatial techniques. Wisdom King told them everything he knew about Chu Kuangren. When everyone heard that, a hint of seriousness appeared in their eyes. If Chu Kuangren's abilities were used well on the battlefield, he would definitely be a huge threat to the Blood Tribe. If it weren't for the Daoist Master, even the strongest Heavenly Honorable wouldn't have any confidence in defeating this person. One of the Blood Kings said. Now that the Daoist Master has taken action, the Firmament Star's Daoist Masters won't just sit and wait for their deaths. I plan to send a few half-step Daoist Masters with the Realm Sealing Seal to Stronghold 31. What do you guys think? Wisdom King said. Oh, the Realm Sealing Seal is a Daoist weapon. Sure. That's a foolproof plan. I want this person to pay for my son's death. White Corpse, you should join in this battle too, King White said to the void behind him. An ugly man with a pale face and a slightly swollen body walked out and nodded. White Corpse will not disappoint you. Oh, is the White Corpse, the strongest cultivator below the Daoist Master, going to fight personally? Don't let us down. Rumor has it that the White Corpse's body is indestructible, and his physical strength is the strongest among the Blood Tribe. I'm looking forward to this battle. The few Blood Kings sized up the White Corpse with great interest. Then, the Blood Kings made arrangements for the second wave of attack. A few days later, the second battle had begun. In Fort 31, Chu Kuangren and the others had also noticed the approaching Blood Tribe troops. This time, the number of warships was more than double of the previous ones. Brother Chu, we'll have to trouble you. Luo Shui said to Chu Kuangren. Alright, leave it to me. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. He wanted to repeat what he had done earlier and use the spatial conveyor technique to attack his opponent. However, at that moment, more than 10 light figures dashed towards him. Without exception, all of them were Heavenly Honorables. At the same time, one of the figures locked onto Chu Kuangren and unleashed a punch. An extremely terrifying fist wind swept out. Chu Kuangren shattered it with a lift of his arm. He looked at the figure who had attacked him. That person's face was pale, and his body was swollen and ugly. However, Chu Kuangren could sense an extremely terrifying power from that body. That power was not spiritual power or Emperor's Qi, instead, it was pure physical strength that he was familiar with. Oh, this is interesting. Chu Kuangren's interest was piqued. By then, the other heavenly honorables had already engaged the heavenly honorables in the fort. Luo Shui was also facing off against a half-step Daoist lord. However, there were still 3 half-step Daoist lords and the swollen blood tribe cultivator who had surrounded Chu Kuangren. Is this how you deal with me? Today, you shall die here. One of the half-step Daoist lords took out a blood-red imperial seal and tossed it into the air. In an instant, a powerful surge of energy spread out from that imperial seal. Beams of light formed around it and intertwined in the void, forming a giant cage-like enchantment that trapped Chu Kuangren within. Chu Kuangren instantly felt that the spatial structure around him had been strengthened by more than 10 times. His spatial conveyor technique had been restricted. That's a Dao weapon. Not far away, Luo Shui's eyes narrowed. A Dao weapon was equivalent to a Daoist lord among cultivators. Its power was far stronger than an emperor weapon. Chapter 742. The realm-sealing seal formed a cage enchantment that trapped Chu Kuangren within, preventing him from using his spatial abilities. On the other hand, a few half-step Dao lords were glaring fiercely at him from the surroundings. Their gazes were piercingly cold, and their killing intent surged incessantly like tidewater. Far away, behind the blood breeds, the 13 blood monarchs were observing the battle through certain means. The world-sealing seal is a Dao artifact that can control space. Now, he won't be able to use his spatial techniques anymore. Add to that the fact that 4 half-step Dao lords are surrounding him, he'll definitely die in this battle, said one of the Blood Kings. The other Blood Kings also looked like they had victory in their grasp. It's a pity that I can't personally kill this person. King White snorted. At the side, the Charm King sighed and said, what a pity. Such a handsome and charming person is going to be gone just like that. Who told him to go against us? On the battlefield, Chu Kuangren was facing 4 half-Daoist lords alone. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his expression calm. He even hooked his finger at them. Come, let me see what you're capable of. You're courting death. One of the half-step Dao lords snorted coldly. In an instant, a pitch-black long saber appeared in his hand. He swung it at Chu Kuangren at an incredible speed and arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. The descendant self-sword at Chu Kuangren's waist was instantly unsheathed. Clang! A stunning sword light suddenly bloomed. Following that, the crowd watched as the half-Daoist lord who was charging at Chu Kuangren was sent flying at an even faster speed before he crashed into the enchanted boundary. How could this be? The half-step Dao lord stared with disbelief at the bloody gash on his chest, and a large amount of blood was spraying out incessantly. He was severely injured with just one strike. One of the half-step Dao lords of the blood beast race roared, besides spatial techniques, this person's cultivation can't be underestimated. Everyone, attack together. Open the small world. In an instant, the other 3 half-Dao lords, excluding the white corpse, unleashed their mini-worlds and charged towards Chu Kuangren. However, as Chu Kuangren lifted his arm, an even more powerful lesser world erupted, instantly crushing all 3 of their lesser worlds. In terms of small worlds, none of you can compare to me. How terrifying was Chu Kuangren's lesser world now? His comprehension of the Dao wasn't inferior to a Daolord's, and his foundation was at the extreme stage of imperial energy. Coupled with the fact that he'd completely refined the quintessence of the secret world, when he unleashed his minor world, not to mention a half-step Dao lord, even a Dao lord might not be able to suppress him. Impossible. This person's strength is far beyond my imagination. The pupils of the 4 half-step Dao lords couldn't help but constrict, and then they madly circulated the imperial energy within them and started to utilize its profundities. Heaven-destroying slash. Thousand rivers shattering star universe. Universe quake. Sky-breaking godly fist. The 4 of them simultaneously activated their strongest profound mysteries. 4 torrents of energy swept out majestically. However, Chu Kuangren did not move an inch from his original spot. He did not dodge or evade the attack. Instead, he gently raised his palm and said, I'll let you all see what's so mysterious about it. Countless Taoist patterns intertwined in Chu Kuangren's palm and formed into a giant vortex. The 4 surges of surging energy were all sucked into it, and the terrifying impact was easily disintegrated. Then, Chu Kuangren gently shook his palm. The 4 remaining surges of energy were repelled. The 4 half-step Tao Lords were forced to retreat, and they could not help but gulp when they saw the faintly discernible Taoist patterns on Chu Kuangren's palm. This is the ultimate profound mystery. He has mastered the ultimate profound mystery. The half-step Tao Lords were shocked. The 13 Blood Kings who were watching the battle from afar were shocked as well. However, that was not the only thing that shocked them. They saw Chu Kuangren follow up with another attack. He took a step forward, and colorful rays of light circulated behind him. The 10,000 Taoist avatar had condensed. The power of the various Taoist physiques fused together to form a terrifying aura that shook the heavens and the earth. Even the enchanted boundary of the realm sealing seal shook violently. That avatar had shocked countless people. The 13 Blood Kings were shocked. Even the 24 Tao Lords were shocked. The entire battlefield even froze for a moment. That avatar is a little too strange. Not only that, but it's simply unbelievable. How can someone possess so many Taoist physiques? This is unheard of. Although the Tao Lords had some understanding of Chu Kuangren, no matter how many times they saw the 10,000 avatar, they still found it unbelievable. Now that the half-step Tao Lords were personally facing that avatar, they could feel the terrifying power of that avatar. Die! Chu Kuangren yelled. The avatar behind him unleashed a punch, and the fist chi formed from the power of the various Taoist physiques enveloped one of the half-step Tao Lords and blasted him into a mist of blood. Chu Kuangren was now an upper heavenly venerable. Not only that, but he was also a top-notch upper heavenly venerable. The 10,000 avatars' power that he could unleash now was incomparable to before. There are 2 more of you. Die too. Chu Kuangren's gaze was cold. The avatar then unleashed another 2 punches. Boom! Boom! 2 mists of blood exploded. Another 2 half-step Tao Lords had fallen. Chu Kuangren, hand over your life. At that moment, the White Corpse had seized the opportunity while Chu Kuangren was killing the remaining half-step Tao Lords to approach him and unleash a punch. At that distance, the avatar could not save him in time. Meanwhile, the White Corpse had also raised his physical strength to its limit. That punch was powerful enough to crush a small planet. Just in time. Let me see how strong your physical strength is. Chu Kuangren also unleashed a punch with his physical strength. When the 2 fists collided, it was as if 2 stars had collided. It set off a terrifying energy storm that crashed against the realm sealing seal enchantment. What? The White Corpse's pupils shrank. He could clearly feel that his opponent's physical strength was no weaker than his own. However, the White Corpse's eyes turned cold. So what if you're a physique cultivator? My close-quarters combat abilities are far superior to yours. At that, the veins on his swollen body bulged like a horned dragon. His physical strength had increased to another level. Do you think you'd have the chance to get close to me if I didn't do it on purpose? Chu Kuangren sneered. Chu Kuangren wanted to test out his physical strength, so he did not dodge the White Corpse's punch. Instead, he used his chest to block it. The White Corpse let out a muffled groan. He felt as if his punch had landed on an indestructible piece of godly metal, and his fist hurt from the impact. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren felt a tightness in his chest as his sternum cracked. However, he recovered in the next instant with the help of the immortal body. Your strength isn't bad. Have a taste of mine. Chu Kuangren grabbed the White Corpse's fist with his left hand and pulled it towards him. Then, he punched out with his right hand like a cannonball. Bang! The first punch landed on the opponent's stomach. The White Corpse bent over in pain, his face twisted, and his eyes bulged. The second punch landed on the opponent's chin from the bottom up. The White Corpse's entire chin shattered and his eyes rolled back. The terrifying impact caused his brain to crash and he almost fainted. Chu Kuangren let go of his hand and activated the immortal stellar physique to its limit. With a cold shout, he punched the white corpse's chest for the third time. With a loud bang, the white corpse's muscles and bones exploded on the spot under the terrifying force that was enough to shatter a star. The white corpse's body flew out and smashed into the enchantment. The entire enchantment shook and shattered into pieces. The white corpse was no longer breathing. His whole body was like a pile of white mud floating in the universe. He, who was known as the best physique cultivator among the blood tribe, was killed by Chu Kuangren in 3 punches. He did not even have the chance to use his close-quarters combat techniques. 4 half-step Daoist masters had fallen. All of this happened in the span of a few breaths. Everyone who witnessed the battle was shocked. Chapter 743. 4 half-step Dao Lords had brought the realm sealing seal with them to kill Chu Kuangren, but they were easily killed by Chu Kuangren instead. Chu Kuangren's powerful combat strength shocked everyone. There was a moment of silence on the battlefield. Chu Kuangren stood in the air with his peerless white robe. He glanced at one of the blood tribe's heavenly venerables and pointed a finger at him. A gigantic finger's shadow immediately condensed in the void, and within it was a small world. The blood tribe heavenly venerables who were targeted by the finger were terrified. They tried to escape, but they were hit by the finger energy. With a boom, a mist of blood exploded. The heavenly venerables had fallen. Retreat! One of the heavenly venerables roared. Chu Kuangren wanted to give chase, but he realized that the realm sealing seal had suddenly trembled. The enchanted boundary had become even more stable. He felt a powerful pressure erupt from the surrounding space, and he felt like he had fallen into a gravitational vortex. Oh, the seal can still operate. Chu Kuangren looked at the realm sealing seal with a burning gaze. It was as if he wanted to see through the seal and see the person behind it. The Emperor's chi surged as the 10,000 Dao Lords unleashed a punch. The surrounding spatial pressure could not withstand it at all, and the majestic fist energy directly landed on the seal. With a boom, the enchanted boundary shattered, and the seal was sent flying into the distance in a stream of light. You want to leave? Did you ask for my permission? Chu Kuangren snorted. He took a step forward and disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the seal. He raised his hand and grabbed, and the 10,000 Dao Lords behind him followed suit. After the realm sealing seal was caught, it trembled violently, trying to break free from Chu Kuangren's control. However, it was forcefully suppressed by the 10,000 Dao Lords. It would be rude of me to refuse this Dao weapon. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Wisdom King grunted coldly while a piercingly cold expression flickered in his eyes. This time, their blood race hadn't just lost 4 half-step Dao Lords, they'd even lost a Dao artifact. This battle had given them a clearer understanding of Chu Kuangren's strength, and they now knew how much of a threat he posed to the blood tribe. If this person doesn't die, he will definitely become a huge threat to the blood tribe. We must think of a way to get rid of him as soon as possible, King Ming said lightly. We can't be rash when dealing with this person. With him presiding over Fortress 31, let's give it up for now, said a Blood King. That's all we can do for now. Send someone down to collect information on this person, including his friends and family. The more detailed, the better. Got it. The vampire troops heading for Fortress 31 retreated. In the absence of peak combat power, no matter how many cultivators there were, it was impossible for them to win. Fortress 31 had achieved victory once again. And it was even easier than last time. Basically, apart from the heavenly venerables fighting, the rest of the people were mostly watching and had no chance to make a move. Back at Fort 31, Chu Kuangren toyed with the imperial seal in his hand, trying to feel the spatial energy within it. This Dao artifact is quite good for trapping people. He put it away and planned to find a time to refine it again. Chu Kuangren, Fort 38 is requesting reinforcements. At this time, Luo Shui found Chu Kuangren and said. At the same time, she tossed a supreme elixir to him. It was a wartime supply to ensure that the cultivators would not run out of spiritual power. Oh, do you want me to go over? Yes. Luo Shui nodded. All right. Chu Kuangren nodded and swallowed the supreme elixir into his stomach. His universal cauldron physique also quickly began to operate. Soon, the entire supreme elixir was completely refined by him. They arrived at the center of Fort 31. There was a teleportation point here that was connected to the other 80 fortresses. The other fortresses also had their own teleportation points, so they could quickly deploy the troops of all the fortresses to help each other. Now, the other fortresses were busy dealing with the Blood Tribe troops. The only one that could quickly deploy troops to help Fort 38 was Fort 31, which had suffered the least damage. On the other hand, Chu Kuangren alone was equivalent to an entire army. I'm counting on you, Luo Shui said. Don't worry, leave it to me. Chu Kuangren smiled and stepped onto the teleportation point. Fort 38. A bloody battle was taking place in the starry sky. Vast energy ripples spread out and shook the universe. The ones who fought the most intensely were the emperors and heavenly venerables. There were hundreds of emperors participating in this battle, and there were dozens of heavenly honorables. All of them were in a frenzy. However, the situation was not so optimistic for Fort 38. The number of emperors was constantly decreasing. The most crucial battle, the heavenly honorable battle, was not optimistic either. The general of Fort 38 was a half-step Taoist lord. However, he had joined forces with the other heavenly honorables to use a joint attack formation to temporarily trap a half-step Taoist lord from the Blood Tribe. This half-step Taoist lord was extremely powerful. He held a long spear in his hand, and when he brandished it, it set off terrifying gales. That spear, in particular, contained a small world. If an ordinary upper heavenly honorable were struck by it, they would either die or be crippled. This was an extremely powerful half-step Taoist lord. Whether it was his foundation or the quality of his Taoist techniques, they were superior to the general of Fort 38. Even though he had joined forces with the other heavenly honorables to set up a formation, he was still barely able to hold on. The longer the battle dragged on, the more damage Fort 38 would suffer, and this battle would be even more hopeless. D***MNit. The general of Fort 38, Heavenly Honorable Mo Ling, gritted his teeth and defended against the half-step Taoist lord's attack. With a bang, the Blood Fiend race member stabbed with his spear and sent a horned firmament demon race member flying. Honorable Sky Bull. D***MNit. Hu Fei, who was also a demon, grimaced. She waved her hand, and with a long howl, she transformed into her heavenly fox form. The heavenly fox, whose body was the size of a small mountain, charged out and headbutted the blood beast, sending him flying. The 9 white tails behind her were also waving frantically, attacking the blood beasts like 9 divine weapons. Get out of my way, you stinking fox. The blood beast roared and hurled the spear in his hand. The terrifying power of a small world erupted, breaking through the 9 fox tails and slamming into Hu Fei, sending her flying while coughing up blood. Hu Fei. The 2 strongest heavenly honorables in the fort were injured one after another. Heavenly Honorable Mo Ling roared and transformed into his firmament demon form. It was a 9-headed serpent ferocious beast. It was Zhou. The power of fire and water filled the entire world as he battled the blood beast, but it didn't take long for 3 of his heads to be chopped off. Ha, you bunch of beasts. I'm going to kill you all today, then take over this fort and earn a great merit. The half-step Taoist lord roared with laughter, extremely pleased with himself. With that, he slashed his spear down at Heavenly Honorable Mo Ling. I think you're dreaming. A voice resounded. A gorgeous white jade sword flew over from afar. The sword chi swept for millions of kilometers, killing blood beast after blood beast in its path. What? Chapter 744. The long sword, along with its majestic sword chi, came from millions of kilometers away. It forced the half-step Tao Lord of the Blood Fiend tribe to withdraw his attack on Heavenly Venerable Mo Ling and block the attack first. Break. The Blood Fiend tribe roared and thrust his spear forward. Two surges of energy collided like two cosmic storms, and the purple sword chi and blood-colored energy intertwined. Large amounts of Daoist patterns swirled and covered most of the universe. In the next moment, the violet sword energy shattered the blood-red energy and smashed into the Blood Beast race's half-step Dowlord, sending him flying for 1,000,000 kilometers before he smashed into a small planet. Bang! Sparks erupted like dazzling fireworks as the small planet exploded and transformed into cosmic dust. Who is it? A furious voice resounded throughout the universe. The Blood Fiend tribe dashed out from the cosmic dust. His armor had been torn apart by the sword chi, and his body was still covered in sparks. His blood-red eyes were filled with violence as he stared into the distance. The white jade longsword turned into a stream of light and shuttled between the stars before it finally returned to a slender, fair hand. The newcomer was dressed in white and had black hair. He was extremely handsome, and compared to the hideous face of the Blood Fiend tribe, his eyes were calm. Brother Chu. Thank goodness, Brother Chu is here. Honorable Sky Bull, Hu Fei, and the others were shocked. They had heard about Chu Kuangren's battle achievements. They knew that his strength was no weaker than a half-step Dowlord. Hold on, why is Brother Chu alone? Honorable Sky Bull was stunned. It was true that Chu Kuangren was strong. But why was there only one of him? Could he really defeat the hundreds of millions of Blood Fiend tribe troops? The other heavenly venerables were dumbfounded as well. I alone am enough, Chu Kuangren said. Then, he took a step forward, and the space before him seemed to have lost all meaning. In just one step, he was already in front of the Blood Fiend tribe. I don't care who you are, but you shall die. The Blood Fiend tribe thrust his spear forward. The spear was imbued with the power of the small world, and it was so powerful that it caused the void to distort. However, Chu Kuangren's expression did not change at all. The Descendant Self sword in his hand also contained a small world. The sword and spear collided, and the two worlds collided. The Blood Beast monarch felt an irresistible force erupt from the white jade sword, and his spear was knocked out of his hand. Then, the sword light flashed. The spectators watched as that formidable enemy that the joint forces of a few heavenly exalts and half-step Dowlords were unable to defeat had been beheaded. This person is so strong. This combat strength is really incredible. Honorable Empyrean Bull, Hu Fei, and the others were dumbfounded by Chu Kuangren's actions. At this moment, Chu Kuangren swept his gaze across the remaining Blood Tribe heavenly venerables. With a lift of his hand, he unleashed his little world and enveloped all the heavenly venerables within. He brandished the sword in his hand. Every time he slashed out, a terrifying sword light that tore through the heavens and split the earth, killing heavenly venerables one by one. Before long, the Blood Race Empyreans were slaughtered clean by him. Sword Chi Doppelganger. Chu Kuangren activated his Sword Chi clone once again. Beams of Sword Chi flew out from his body. As the Sword Chi danced in the air, it turned into countless clones that covered the entire battlefield. Among the spectators, one of the emperors was dumbfounded. F***ck me, isn't that my Sword Chi clone? F***ck me, it's him. That emperor was dumbfounded. That person was none other than the mindful emperor who created the Sword Chi clone. With Chu Kuangren's arrival, the Blood Race's defeat was inevitable. After all, no one below the Dowlords was a match for Chu Kuangren. Soon, the Blood Race troops were wiped out one by one. Everyone looked at the white-robed figure with respect and admiration. Thank you, Brother Chu. Heavenly Venerate Mo Ling came before Chu Kuangren and thanked him sincerely. It's all right. Chu Kuangren reached out and cast the Spring Breeze healing technique to heal Heavenly Venerate Mo Ling's injuries. Then, he lifted his arm and cast the Spring Breeze healing technique to cover a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers, healing the injuries of countless soldiers. This scene caused everyone to exclaim in surprise. Spatial techniques, a clone technique, and an emperor technique that can heal injuries in a large area. This man is practically the ruler of the battlefield. Heavenly Venerate Mo Ling said in amazement. However, Chu Kuangren, who had cast the spring breeze healing technique in such a large area, did not look as relaxed as he looked. He had consumed a lot of Emperor's qi. Brother Chu, it's all thanks to you this time. Yeah. Hu Fei, Honorable Sky Bull, and the other heavenly venerates also came up to thank him. Hu Fei, in particular, could not help but gulp as she looked at Chu Kuangren's godlike figure. She felt that this man had made her even more fascinated. Brother Chu, do you still remember me? At that moment, an emperor walked up to him. Chu Kuangren chuckled when he saw him. Emperor Mindful, it's been a while. You're the first emperor I've ever met, so how could I not remember you? You were the one who taught me this sword chi clone. Emperor Mindful laughed, feeling proud of Chu Kuangren. This emperor technique has truly flourished in your hands. It's many times more powerful than when it was in my hands. I'm completely convinced. He was truly convinced. The last time his emperor's thought met Chu Kuangren was more than 10 years ago. However, in that short time, Chu Kuangren had grown from a puny honorable to the point where he could kill a half-stepped lord. He would not have imagined this even if he was beaten to death. The situation at Fort 38 had more or less stabilized. However, Chu Kuangren did not stay idle. He did not return to Fort 31. Instead, he wandered around the major fortresses as a lone soldier, going wherever the situation was critical. With his unparalleled strength, elusive spatial conveyor technique, sword chi clones, and many other techniques, his active performance on the battlefield was witnessed by everyone, and they were all extremely shocked. Battlefield Dominator, White-Robed Battle God, Sword God, King of Lone Soldiers, Spatial Controller, and so on, one after another, titles fell on his head. Chu Kuangren's reputation on the battlefield had reached its peak. 3 months later. Fort 31. Chu Kuangren sat cross-legged on a warship, quickly absorbing the impure spiritual qi in the universe and converting it into Emperor's qi. With the universal cauldron physique, the process was very fast. It was not only the universal cauldron physique but also the power of faith. He realized that the more active he was on the battlefield, the more intense the power of faith became. After all, he had fought countless battles in the past few months, and many people regarded him as a deity on the battlefield. Our battlefield dominator, White-Robed Battle God, King of Lone Soldiers, and Spatial Controller, how's your recovery, Sword God? A teasing voice came from beside him. Luo Shui slowly walked over. Chu Kuangren chuckled at her words. First female emperor of all time, Luo Shui. Is there anything I can help you with? Nothing much. I just wanted to tell you that the Blood Tribe's attacks have weakened quite a bit recently. They'll probably stop for a few days. Luo Shui said. But they won't stop for long. Yes, of course. In the past, the Crimson Firmament battles lasted at least 13 years. It's only been a few months now. That's right. Look, the combat leaderboard has been updated. At that moment, a voice came from a soldier beside him. Chapter 745. The combat leaderboard has been updated. At that moment, a voice came from the side. Many people gathered around to watch the fight. Following the outbreak of the Crimson Firmament battle, many capable warriors had achieved many battle merits. Hence, the rankings on the combat leaderboard had changed. Look, our general is ranked 41st. Luo Shui was calm when she heard that. She had just returned not long ago. Although she had killed many enemies in the Crimson Firmament battle, it was unrealistic to say that her ranking was high. The 41st place was neither high nor low, it was just right. If she were to rank so high, she would wonder if anyone was killing enemies at all. Was the Firmament Star going to be destroyed? Quick, look at Brother Chu's ranking. Everyone said excitedly. Let's see. The soldier who was looking at the combat leaderboard kept swiping his finger up and down. Then, he gasped. I found it, the combat leaderboard is ranked first. Battle merits. 1, 3 billion. 1, 3 billion battle merits, ranked first. That shocked countless soldiers in the strongholds. Even Luo Shui was shocked. How many blood tribe warriors did you kill? Chu Kuangren pondered for a while and thought carefully. I didn't really remember, but it should be around 1 billion. Gulp, everyone gulped as their pupils trembled violently. In just a few months, he had killed more than 1 billion. Holy sh*t. That was even worse than a butcher. It's impossible to achieve such a scale of battle merits just by killing the enemies. Brother Chu has played a huge role in this battle. That's right. The spatial conveyor technique, sword chi clones, spring breeze healing technique, and other techniques have saved us a lot of casualties. Tisk tsk, he's not called the battlefield dominator for nothing. If the Dao Lords don't attack, no one is a match for Brother Chu. Moreover, the Dao Lords are keeping each other busy, so who would dare to attack? Brother Chu is amazing. 3 billion battle merits, ranked first on the combat leaderboard. The news quickly spread across the 81 strongholds. Everyone was shocked by this. The name of Chu Kuangren was now known to everyone. This is too amazing. It's only been 3 months since the start of the Crimson Firmament battle, but his battle merits have risen from 100 million to 3 billion. Not even the Dao Lords can do this. The strongest person below the Dao Lord. No, forget about being the number 1 person below the Dao Master, I feel that he can even be compared to the Dao Master. Not bad. As expected of the most demonic prodigy in the history of the Firmament Star. Perhaps, he can really change the situation of the extraterrestrial battlefield. Battlefield Dominator, you live up to your reputation. I'm convinced. For a lone soldier to reach this level, what else can I say other than being convinced? I'm really looking forward to his future. It only took him a few short months to go from 31st place to 1st place. This kind of advancement speed refreshed everyone's understanding. However, it was rare that no one was unconvinced. That was because the role that Chu Kuangren had played in this battle of the Crimson Firmament was no longer something that could be simply described with the word, battle merit. Everyone knew that. Once Chu Kuangren was allowed to grow for a period of time, 100 years or even 1,000 years, he would definitely become a force that could influence the foreign battlefields. Was 100 years or 1,000 years very long? One had to know that the war between them and the blood breeds had already lasted for 12 eras. 100 or even 1,000 years was nothing to them. Chu Kuangren was only 30 this year. He was still too young. So young that it was almost unbelievable. However, this youth gave him immeasurable potential. After 3 months of continuous attacks, the blood tribe's tempo suddenly slowed down. Although local battles continued, there were no large-scale battles, so Chu Kuangren was able to rest for a few days. He took advantage of this time to refine the realm sealing seal that he had obtained a few months ago. This Dao weapon was indeed extraordinary. It was a treasure that could trap people. If it was fully unleashed, even a Dao Lord might not be able to escape. Then, he contacted Yu Xiaowu. Yu Xiaowu was a spy that he had planted in the blood tribe. He was a heavenly honorable realm expert and held a high position in the blood tribe, so he could usually provide Chu Kuangren with some information. Master, the blood tribe's frontline forces have suffered a setback because of you. They are now temporarily delaying their attacks and waiting for resources from the rear. Oh, resources from the rear. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Yes. Sometimes, a war was about resources. As long as they had an advantage in resources, the Firmament Star would have an easier time in the future. However, if the enemy had an advantage in resources, Yu Xiaowu, do you have a transportation route for the Blood Tribe's resources? Part of it. Give it to me. Soon, Chu Kuangren obtained the transportation route from Yu Xiaowu. A glint flashed across his eyes. He called Luo Shui over and explained the matter to him. Is the information reliable? That blood tribe member is under my control. He won't betray us. Although we know the transportation route, it won't be easy to cross the Blood Tribe's battlefield and intercept them. Let me go. Chu Kuangren smiled. Can you gather so many resources? Some resources could not be stored in yin and yang rings. Too strong of an energy fluctuation would damage the space within the yin and yang rings. I've refined a secret realm. That secret realm should be enough to store all these resources, Chu Kuangren said confidently. With his elusive spatial conveyor technique and a secret realm that could store everything, he might be the best person to carry out this mission. Be careful, Luo Shui said. Got it. Chu Kuangren smiled and cast the spatial conveyor technique. He turned around and walked into the void, instantly disappearing on the spot. In the vast and boundless universe, there were more than 10 battleships sailing. They were the Blood Tribe's resource transportation ships. A ripple appeared in the void. A white-robed figure suddenly appeared in the void. It was Chu Kuangren. He had used the spatial conveyor technique to travel nearly half a light year without alerting the Blood Tribe's frontline troops. Chu Kuangren smirked as he looked at the transport fleet before him. He then scanned the fleet with his emperor's thought to get a general understanding of the situation. There were many cultivators, but the strongest one was only a heavenly venerable. He was just an ordinary upper heavenly venerable. To Chu Kuangren, he was not a threat at all. I'll gladly accept it then. Chu Kuangren's figure flashed and landed on one of the warships. Who's there? D*MN it's someone from Firmament Star. The Blood Tribe cultivators' expressions changed. However, before they could do anything, the descendant self-sword on Chu Kuangren's waist was unsheathed and slashed across the void. One by one, the Blood Tribe cultivators were killed by the sword. The descendant self-sword wreaked havoc on the warship. Countless Blood Tribe cultivators were killed easily. The other warships also reacted and wanted to help. However, they were powerless against Chu Kuangren. Soon, the fleet was annihilated by Chu Kuangren. All the resources transported by the fleet were stored into his secret realm. The first transportation route is done. Chapter 746. 14 resource routes. 14 of them. Billions of blood origin crystals and supreme elixirs are gone. What the hell are those useless fools at the front line doing? The enemy has already gone to our rear to steal our resources, but they didn't even notice. Inside the Blood Tribe's headquarters, one of the 13 kings, the Farsighted King, was so furious that his body was twitching, and his blood-red eyes were filled with violence. All the Blood Tribe members within a 10,000-kilometer radius were trembling in fear. The resource routes are top secret. Not even the higher-ups of the Blood Tribe know about it. How did the people of Firmament Star find out? The Farsighted King gradually calmed down after his rage subsided. The other Blood Kings fell into deep thought when they heard his words. Is there a traitor among us? That must be it. Find a way to find out who the traitor is. Also, make a new resource route. No one but us is allowed to leak it. The Farsighted King took a deep breath. To be able to steal 14 batches of resources in just a few days without anyone knowing, I'm afraid only Chu Kuangren, who possesses spatial techniques, can do that. The White King said coldly. The other Blood Kings' expressions turned serious when they heard that name. They were also very wary of Chu Kuangren. Indeed. If we don't get rid of this guy, it'll be difficult to continue this war. Not only this war, but if this guy doesn't die, the Blood Tribe will have a hard time in the future, the Farsighted King said. How's the plan coming along? It's almost done. If that's the case, then let's begin. Even if we have to fight the Firmament Star's Taoist masters, we must kill this guy. Fort 31. Chu Kuangren returned after stealing 14 batches of Blood Tribe resources. Although there were many resources in that batch, not many of them were useful to him. Hence, he distributed them to the soldiers at the front line. Because of this incident, his prestige increased by quite a bit. In the past few days, his faith energy had been increasing. Refining faith energy was also one of Chu Kuangren's cultivation methods. It was not limited to the extraterrestrial battlefield. On Firmament Star, as the Black Heavens sect grew stronger, so did his faith energy. Based on the growth rate of faith energy, even if I don't look for other opportunities of fortune, I'll be able to ascend to the Taoist Master Realm in less than 3 years. Chu Kuangren murmured as he looked at the boundless universe. Advancing to the Tao Lord Realm in 3 years? Not many people would believe it if this was spread out. After all, which of the current Tao Lords hadn't spent countless years of accumulation to reach their current level? There were even some extraordinarily talented geniuses who were stuck at the doorstep of the Tao Lord Realm their entire lives. Advance to the Tao Lord Realm in 3 years? This kind of thing was too ridiculous. However, Chu Kuangren was extremely confident. He even felt that 3 years was a little too long. Fellow Taoist Chu, there's an urgent military report. At this moment, the Luo River arrived. Chu Kuangren was surprised to hear that. What military intelligence? Yan Honghua, you know her, right? Yes, what happened to her? Chu Kuangren frowned. Some time ago, when Yan Honghua was chasing after a blood breed troop, she entered the encirclement of the blood breed. Now, it is unknown whether she is alive or dead. The higher-ups are currently organizing people to rescue her. Luo Shui said. Yan Honghua was one of the most outstanding prodigies among the 81 fortresses in the off-world battlefield. If nothing went wrong, there was a very high chance that she would become a Tao Lord in the future and become one of the strongest combatants in the off-world battlefield. The upper echelons of the human race naturally attached great importance to such a prodigy. They would not let her die just like that. Upon hearing this news, Chu Kuangren immediately contacted the ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable. General, how is the young general doing? They are currently trapped on the 64th asteroid, surrounded by blood breed troops. It won't be easy for them to break out of the encirclement. Don't worry, General. I'll personally make a trip there. Yan Honghua was the future mainstay of the human race, and she was also a friend of the ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable. Now that she was in trouble, the ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable would naturally not sit idly by. Brother Chu, the 17th fortress still needs my protection. I can't leave, so I'll leave Huar in your hands. The ghostly blade Heavenly Honorable said solemnly. Don't worry, General. The rescue mission could not be delayed any longer. Chu Kuangren soon departed. Initially, there were a few other Heavenly Honorables accompanying him. However, considering that Chu Kuangren's combat strength alone was enough to take on thousands of Heavenly Honorables, those Heavenly Honorables were assigned to other battlefields. Inside the 64th asteroid, Yan Honghua and her red-robed guards were hiding in a mountain range. There was a red veil around them. This veil had the effect of blocking out the Emperor's thoughts. It was also because of this veil that they were able to evade the blood breed troops' search. Yan Honghua looked at the red-robed guards behind her, who were more or less injured, with an apologetic look on her face. If I hadn't made a mistake in my strategy, everyone wouldn't have ended up like this. Young General, this is not your fault. Yes, if it wasn't for you leading us out of the encirclement, we would have died yesterday. Bai Lichuan said with a faint smile. Young General, there are too many blood breeds searching this area. Let's leave quickly and find a place to rest. Bai Lixua glanced at the blood breed troops in the sky and said. All right. Yan Honghua nodded and led the group away. In the forest, a blood breed troop was searching for the red-robed guards. TSK, this group of women sure knows how to hide. They've been hiding here for a few days now. I wonder where they've gone. I heard that the general said that anyone who finds these women will be rewarded with 100,000 blood origin crystals. The eyes of a few blood breed soldiers lit up. The blood origin crystals were equivalent to the spiritual marrow of the firmament star. They could be absorbed by cultivators and converted into spiritual energy and emperor's essence. 100,000 blood origin crystals would tempt even an emperor. Let's not think about it. I heard that there's a heavenly lord among those women. Their strength is not something we can compare to. A Blood Fiend tribe soldier curled his lips and said, if possible, don't let us meet them. Otherwise, we won't even know how we died. As the soldier spoke, he brushed the leaves in front of him aside. Then, he saw a group of women in armor walking towards him, and the one leading them happened to be looking at him. The two of them stared at each other for a second. It can't be, it can't be. He really ran into them. The Blood Fiend tribe member gulped. Before he could do anything, Yan Honghua had already flown towards him. In the blink of an eye, the world spun. The Blood Fiend tribe member was beheaded while he was still in a daze. Found them. Quick, informed the general. The other soldiers' expressions changed drastically. However, Yan Honghua's reaction was even faster. She activated the Heavenly Lord's small world. Although she had just broken through and was not too familiar with the small world, it was more than enough to deal with this group of blood-breed soldiers who were not even emperors. In the blink of an eye, this group of people was killed by Yan Honghua. Let's go. Yan Honghua said to the red-robed guards behind her. However, it was too late. The fluctuations of the small world attracted the attention of the blood-breed powerhouses. Dozens of light figures flew over and arrived above the red-robed guards. I've finally found you. Chapter 747. I've finally found you. Dozens of streams of light arrived above the red-clothed guards. The leader of the group was sitting on an empty chair. He held a glass cup in his hand, and the cup was filled with fine wine. It was a young man dressed in a blood-red robe. His blood-red eyes were looking at Yan Honghua, revealing a playful look. Upon seeing him, Yan Honghua's body erupted with a biting cold killing intent. It's you. Countless memories surged in Yan Honghua's mind. In the end, it stopped at the scene of her parents being pierced through by a man with a spear, and the man sitting on the chair and leaving. Oh, you know me. The blood-red robed young man looked at Yan Honghua in surprise. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and said, I remember now. Your name is Yan Honghua, the young general of the general's residence in the 17th fortress, right? Your parents were killed by me. Die. Yan Honghua roared angrily and immediately rushed out. Her small world instantly unfolded. With a thrust of her spear, a terrifying spear force wrapped in Tao patterns, world energy, and the anger and hatred accumulated for decades. This spear strike was Yan Honghua's limit. But the blood-red robed young man did not move. A heavenly venerable behind him made his move. You're not qualified to touch the general. The heavenly venerable thrust out his spear and directly smashed onto Yan Honghua's spear, sending her flying hundreds of miles away and crashing thousands of feet into the ground. Be careful, don't kill her. The higher-ups have ordered that she must live, the blood-red robed young man said lightly. I know, she's bait. The heavenly venerable nodded. Damn it, damn it. Yan Honghua rushed out. Although she had suffered some injuries, the anger in her eyes did not diminish. But other than anger, she was also unwilling. She had already advanced to the heavenly venerable realm, but in front of her enemy, she still could not fight back. She could not even defeat one of the enemy's subordinates. She was still too weak. No, but I have to at least let Bai Lichuan and the others leave. Yan Honghua glanced at Bai Lichuan and the others with a hint of determination in her eyes. Then, she took out a dark red crystal. The crystal was surging with a large amount of resentment. This was her trump card. It was a crystal that had gathered the resentment of billions of lives on the battlefield. I've spent years and thousands of battles to forge this resentment crystal. It's time to put it to use today. Yan Honghua growled and crushed the resentment crystal in her hand. A large amount of resentment immediately gushed out, transforming into millions of vengeful spirits that covered most of the sky, letting out shrill cries. Countless evil spirits fused into Yan Honghua's body. Strange black lines crawled all over her body. She couldn't help but cry out in pain. Then, she gripped her spear and rushed towards the Blood Clan Empyrean. Her aura is different. Be careful. In the end, he's just a lower-level heavenly sovereign. The Empyrean who had blasted Yan Honghua away rushed out once again, stabbing out with his spear. But this time, a massive amount of resentment gushed out from Yan Honghua's spear, transforming into a malicious spirit that tore at him. What the hell is this? The heavenly sovereign's expression changed and he couldn't help but retreat. But as he retreated, Yan Honghua's attacks became even more violent. Spear strike followed by spear strike, and every spear strike was wrapped in shocking resentment. Kill, kill, kill. The resentment mixed with the Emperor Qi was like the wailing of millions of malicious spirits. The Empyrean's fighting spirit was greatly affected. Even though his cultivation was higher than Yan Honghua's, he was still at a disadvantage. Damn it, damn it. A mere lower-level heavenly sovereign, don't be too arrogant. The Blood Clan Empyrean roared and stabbed out with his spear. But this time, what welcomed him was an even more violent spear momentum. Yan Honghua stabbed out with her spear. Large amounts of resentment and Emperor Qi condensed into a black flood dragon that rushed out, directly tearing apart the Blood Clan Empyrean's small world and knocking away his spear before slamming into his chest. Puff, the Blood Clan Empyrean spat out a mouthful of blood. His bones and tendons shattered as he fell to the ground like a rag. His eyes were filled with disbelief. How could this be? Yan Honghua's figure flickered and appeared in front of him. She stabbed out with her spear, blasting his head apart. As for the blood-robed youth, the general that everyone was talking about, he had been sitting on that chair the entire time, sipping his wine and not moving at all. After going through such a great battle, not only did his aura not decrease, but it was also continuously rising. He said in a playful tone, gathering the resentment of billions of living beings on the battlefield, this cultivation method is quite unique. However, can you withstand the pain of 10,000 ghosts devouring your heart? Yan Honghua gripped her spear, the strange black patterns on her body constantly squirming. The shadow behind her constantly twisted under the sunlight, faintly emitting mournful wails that made one shudder. If I can't kill you, I will feel even more pain. Yan Honghua stared at the blood-robed youth, her voice hoarse, like a beast that had been bitten full of holes, filled with bone-deep hatred. After saying that, she charged towards the blood-robed youth, but the Empyreans around the blood-robed youth blocked her at the same time. Do you really think we don't exist? There is no need for the general to deal with you. Several Empyreans attacked together. For a time, small worlds erupted, suppressing Yan Honghua, making it difficult for her to move. Roar! Yan Honghua let out a low roar. Resentment surged. Kill! She forcefully broke through the suppression of several small worlds, her whole body seemed to have turned into a black ghost that shuttled through the air. Several Empyreans also attacked when they saw this. Swords, sabers, spears, and other weapons clashed together. Yan Honghua's strength was indeed powerful by using resentment crystals, but it was still not easy to kill several Empyreans whose cultivation realm was far higher than hers. The battle fell into a stalemate. The blood-robed youth sitting on the chair yawned. He looked at the red-clothed guards not far away and chuckled. With a flick of his finger, a blood-colored energy shot out, blasting a red-clothed guard into a bloody mist. Bastard! Yan Honghua roared, her resentment surging even more fiercely. The blood-robed youth smiled faintly and said, "Back then, you must have felt very helpless when you saw your parents die in front of you. Now, I will let you relive that feeling and watch your comrades die one by one." He killed another red-clothed guard with a flick of his finger. The red-clothed guards wanted to resist, but there was nothing they could do. Under the blood-robed youth's might, they could not move at all. They could only stay where they were, being hit by the blood-colored energy shot out from his fingertips. Bang, 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 bloody mists exploded one after another. Yan Honghua was furious, but no matter how hard she tried, she could not defeat these Empyreans working together. How is it? Are you angry? Powerless? It must feel bad to watch your comrades die one after another. The blood-robed youth laughed loudly, and the energy shot out from his fingertips became faster and faster. Just as despair shrouded Yan Honghua and every red-clothed guard's heart, a bone-chilling voice suddenly rang out. "You seem to be having fun." As soon as the voice finished speaking, the blood-colored energy shot towards the red-clothed guards was shattered by an invisible force. Right on the heels of that, a killing intent so cold that it made every single blood race cultivator present shudder descended from the sky. Chapter 748. An intense murderous intent descended from the sky and enveloped everyone present. All the blood tribe cultivators felt their scalps tingle. The red-robed guards looked up and saw a white figure descending from the sky. The aura emanating from his body shook the entire planet. It's Brother Chu. Bai Lichuan's eyes were filled with hope. Chu Kuangren's appearance was like a ray of light that completely swept away the despair. "He's here." The blood tribe Heavenly Honorable's expressions changed slightly. Chu Kuangren was the ruler of the battlefield. They had heard many rumors about him in the past few months. As long as he appeared, the blood tribe would suffer a crushing defeat. To the firmament star cultivators, Chu Kuangren was the god of war, the light of hope. As long as he appeared, all difficulties would be easily solved. To the blood tribe, however, he was the god of death who would only bring despair. "He's finally taken the bait. Retreat." The blood-robed young man glanced at Chu Kuangren. The aura emanating from Chu Kuangren made it impossible for him to resist. He took out a white crystal. It was a teleportation crystal. It could instantly teleport him back to the blood tribe headquarters from hundreds of millions of miles away. However, when he crushed the crystal and tried to leave, he realized that the surrounding space had been sealed by an invisible force. Unknowingly, a cage-like enchanted boundary had appeared around him. It was the realm-sealing Taoist weapon. Not good. The blood-robed young man's expression instantly changed into panic and helplessness. Initially, he had planned to execute this plan with the help of this teleportation crystal in his hand. It would allow him to leave freely. However, he did not expect this to happen. Chu Kuangren glanced at the crowd. Then, the descendant self-sword on his waist automatically unsheathed itself and blasted the heavenly honorables who were surrounding Yan Honghua away with a terrifying force. Those with slightly weaker cultivation bases exploded into a mist of blood on the spot. He then grabbed Yan Honghua in front of him. The spirit of omniscience, Xiao AI, activated to analyze her current situation. "Brother Chu, I've absorbed too much resentment. There's no way I can survive this. I'll leave the red-robed guards to you," Yan Honghua said in a hoarse voice. "Don't worry, you won't die." Chu Kuangren stretched out his 5 fingers and aimed his palm at Yan Honghua. A majestic suction force erupted and absorbed the resentment within her body. "Brother Chu, you can't," Yan Honghua's expression changed. This resentment was so boundless that it was hard to imagine. She had used some kind of secret technique to activate it, but even so, it was still difficult for her to escape death. However, Chu Kuangren was unprepared for it. Even a top-notch heavenly honorable would not be able to withstand it. "Don't move," Chu Kuangren shouted. "Quick, kill him." When the blood-robed young man saw that Chu Kuangren was helping Yan Honghua resolve her grievous qi problem, he immediately wanted to take this opportunity to kill him. In any case, with the realm-sealing seal, they could no longer escape. He might as well give it his all. If they could kill Chu Kuangren, that would be a great achievement. When that happened, not only would he be promoted, the entire Sanguine race would view him as a hero. The Blood King would also favor him. At the thought of this, the scarlet-robed young man's eyes lit up. He attacked. He rushed out together with the other Empyreans. A dark red spear appeared in his hand, and surging energy fluctuations spread out. Blood Dragon Stab. Storm God Slash. Die. The Empyreans unleashed their techniques and attacked Chu Kuangren. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground calmly. An invisible barrier was formed. The Empyreans' attacks landed on the barrier, but it did not even cause a ripple. How is this possible? This power, while the Empyreans were still in shock, Chu Kuangren gently lifted his arm. His Emperor's Qi Daoist patterns intertwined, and his mini-world energy surged. Purple chains emerged from the void, and the world lock appeared once again. The Empyreans dodged left and right, but they could not escape the world lock's pursuit. Soon, they were tightly bound by it. This power, how can it be? The scarlet-robed young man and the others were in disbelief. No matter what, they were still top-notch Empyreans, yet they could not fight back against Chu Kuangren at all. How could they believe this? However, the truth was right in front of them, and the world lock that bound them proved it. No matter what they did, they could not move Chu Kuangren at all. Soon, Chu Kuangren absorbed all the grievous qi in Yan Honghua's body into his own. He did not seem to be affected at all. The grievous qi had been completely refined into spiritual power and Emperor's qi. Grievous qi was also a type of strange energy. Most cultivators would not be able to control this energy, but it was nothing to Chu Kuangren, who had the universal cauldron physique. It was a nutrient for his cultivation. After absorbing the grievous qi, Chu Kuangren slowly walked to the blood-robed young man with a cold gaze. "You seem to be having fun just now." As soon as he said that, a sword qi slashed across. A bone-deep sword wound appeared on the blood-robed young man's body, and fresh blood gushed out continuously. No matter how much the blood-robed young man channeled his Emperor's qi to suppress it, it was useless. He looked at Chu Kuangren in horror. "You. What are you trying to do? Didn't you guys use Yan Honghua as bait to lure me here? I should be the one asking you what you're trying to do." Chu Kuangren said calmly. Not only was the blood-robed young man not surprised that he was here, but he even calmly took out his teleportation crystal and tried to leave. If Chu Kuangren had not used the realm sealing seal to seal the space, that person would have escaped. Obviously, the other party was prepared for Chu Kuangren's arrival. In fact, Chu Kuangren's arrival was their goal. "What am I going to do?" "I'm going to kill you, of course." Knowing that he had no chance of survival, the blood-robed young man decided to go all out with a ferocious smile on his face. "Unfortunately, you'll die before you can kill me," Chu Kuangren said as he gently lifted his finger. Surges of sword qi traveled through the void, and the heavenly honorables who were bound by the world lock were soon shredded into clouds of blood mist by the sword qi. This was especially true for the blood-robed young man. Countless surges of sword qi circled around his body and continuously sliced off his flesh. Not long after, the blood-robed young man's body was left with a bloody skeleton. What was more terrifying was that the blood tribe young man's head was still connected to his body. He was not completely dead yet, and his consciousness was still there. He could only watch as his flesh was continuously sliced off. "Is this game fun?" Chu Kuangren said in a calm tone. You'll die a horrible death." The blood-robed young man's broken body trembled. Chu Kuangren lifted his arm and unleashed a surge of energy qi, crushing the young man into pieces. Then, he took out a pink bubble. The bubble continued to expand until a crack appeared. It was the secret realm. Chu Kuangren said to Yan Honghua and the others, "You guys go in first." "All right." Everyone could vaguely guess what was going on, so they entered the secret realm one after another. Once everyone had entered, Chu Kuangren kept the secret realm. Then, beams of light suddenly erupted from the entire 64th asteroid. Countless Daoist patterns circulated and covered the entire asteroid, forming a huge enchanted boundary that enveloped the entire planet. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by this. "I'd like to see how you're going to kill me." Chapter 749. "I'd like to see how you're going to kill me," Chu Kuangren said calmly. As soon as he said that, a winged blood tribe man in a white robe suddenly appeared not far away from him. That man exuded an incredibly powerful aura, and every move he made was filled with an oppressive aura that only a superior cultivator could possess. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes at the newcomer. Daoist Master. The newcomer was a Daoist master. In the cosmic void around Firmament Star, powerful energy fluctuations erupted from more than 10 planets. The Blood Tribe's Daoist master has made his move. Do you really think we'll just sit back and watch? Let's go. Rays of light shot out one after another. They were heading towards the 64th asteroid. A few of the planets that the Taoist master was on did not move at all. On one of the planets, the heavenly yellow Taoist master was watering his plants and murmuring, "Chu Kuangren, can you survive this?" Chu Kuangren was facing a Taoist master. Of course, he was aware of this. However, he did not plan to make a move. Chu Kuangren's existence was similar to the Luo River and the Heavenly Executioner. It made him feel uneasy, as if his status had been affected. However, he could not attack directly because of the other Taoist masters and his reputation. However, he would not stop the Blood Tribe if they wanted to kill Chu Kuangren. Among the 24 Taoist masters, there were a few who were close to him and took orders from him. They knew what he was thinking, so they did not make a move. He did not care if the other Taoist masters would make a move. The Blood Tribe was fully prepared to kill Chu Kuangren this time. Even the Taoist masters would not be able to save Chu Kuangren easily. In the cosmos, the Taoist master turned into a ray of light and flew past. The Taoist master's speed was so fast that it only took him a few breaths to cross a few billion kilometers and arrive outside the 64th asteroid. However, there were countless Taoist runes circulating on the outer layer of the asteroid, forming a golden light barrier that prevented the Taoist master from entering. Destroy it! The Dharma Taoist master snorted. However, just as the Taoist masters were about to attack, a dozen powerful energy fluctuations erupted in the cosmos. A blood-colored light beam that contained a vast amount of Emperor's Qi and Taoist runes charged towards the Dharma Taoist master. Even the Dharma Taoist master could not help but be pushed back a few hundred meters. He looked into the distance. More than a dozen figures appeared outside the golden barrier of light, and every one of them emanated energy waves that were not inferior to a Tao Lord's, 13 Blood Kings. The myriad arts Tao Master's eyes darkened. The newcomers were none other than the 13 Blood Kings of the Blood Race, as well as other hidden Tao Lords. There were 18 of them in total. 18 Tao Lords. It could be said that the Tao Lords of the Blood Race had turned out in full force. Looks like you guys are really willing to go all out just to kill Chu Kuangren. I suppose most of the Blood Tribe Taoists have arrived. The Myriad Laws Tao Master said coldly. If Chu Kuangren doesn't die, how can the Blood Tribe rest in peace? King Ming said coldly. Chu Kuangren was too much of a threat to the Blood Tribe. It could even be said that if Chu Kuangren did not die and was given more time to grow, the Blood Tribe would never have the chance to invade Firmament Star again. The Firmament Star might even take over. How could the Blood King sit still? No, the entire Blood Tribe could not sit idly by and watch Chu Kuangren grow. Then let's start a full-scale war. The Myriad Laws Path Master snorted coldly. Without another word, he lifted his arm and streaks of mystical Taoist patterns spread out with him as the center, covering half of the universe. He then pointed his finger forward, and the countless Taoist patterns contracted to form a giant finger shadow. Its surging energy locked onto King Ming. King Ming snorted and unleashed a punch of his own. There was a loud explosion. The destructive energy produced by the Tao Lord spread out to a radius of 10 million kilometers. Asteroids exploded one after another, and a large amount of gales swept up in the surroundings. Fight! The other Tao Lords had also begun their battle. For a moment, the cold and silent universe seemed to be lit up. Rays of flames of different colors were unleashed. Inside the 64th asteroid, Chu Kuangren faced off against a Tao Lord all by himself. The spirit of omniscience, Shao AI, activated. Analyzing target, soon, Chu Kuangren found out who the Tao Lord before him was. The Blood Tribe's White King, by Juexin's father. Ha, I didn't expect you to personally come to seek revenge. Chu Kuangren chuckled. I can't believe you can still laugh. White King said indifferently. Why not? This is the first time I've fought against a Tao Lord. It's a memorable day. A long-lost battle intent surfaced in Chu Kuangren's eyes. The killing intent and battle intent that he had accumulated on the battlefield for months suddenly erupted. The entire planet shook violently because of this surge of energy. A strange look flashed across White King's eyes as he said, "Not a bad battle intent, but this is your first time fighting against a Tao Lord, and it'll be your last too." At the end of his sentence, a surge of killing intent also erupted from White King's body. It was bone-chilling, and it sent chills down one's spine. This battle was not only for the sake of avenging his son's death, but also for the future of the entire blood tribe. No matter which one it was, Chu Kuangren must not be left alive. "Let's fight!" Chu Kuangren shouted and unsheathed the descendant's self-sword at his waist. White King had also taken out a giant axe. It was a dark red giant axe that was covered in dense Taoist patterns. When the sword and the axe collided, the terrifying impact immediately tore apart half of the 64th asteroid, almost tearing it in half. With a crack, a crisp sound rang in Chu Kuangren's ears. A crack appeared on the descendant's self-sword. Chu Kuangren's pupils shrunk. The descendant's self-sword had accompanied him in battles for many years, and it had continuously improved along with his cultivation. It had never been damaged before, but he did not expect it to be damaged in the first exchange with a Tao Lord. Chu Kuangren clenched his left hand into a fist, and the Starlight Immortal Physique's physical strength was pushed to its limit as he punched White King away. Then, he kept the descendant's self-sword away. "Your weapon is too weak." White King snorted, and the dark red giant axe in his hand emanated a terrifying aura. It was a Taoist weapon. "Ha, I'm already at a disadvantage in terms of weapons." Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then, his gaze froze. He raised his hand to gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, and a giant colorful rune appeared in the void. It was the Heavenly Nine Dragons transformation. The rune gathered the spiritual chi and turned it into a giant colorful dragon chi that rushed towards Chu Kuangren and merged into his body. That move instantly absorbed all the spiritual chi within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers from the 64th asteroid. With the help of the dragon chi, Chu Kuangren's aura continued to rise. Thousand Taoist Avatar. A colorful Dharma avatar formed behind Chu Kuangren. The 1,000-meter-tall Dharma avatar stood tall, and its majestic aura broke through the clouds. The entire 64th asteroid also began to collapse because of that power. Floods erupted, and a large amount of underground magma gushed out. "Come, let's fight again." Chu Kuangren controlled the Dharma avatar and punched out. White King snorted coldly, and with his giant axe in hand, he swung it towards the Dharma avatar. Taoist patterns gathered within it, forming an axe ray. When the two forces collided, the entire asteroid could no longer withstand it. What followed was a shocking explosion. The asteroid exploded and shattered into countless pieces. However, the surrounding golden light barrier did not disappear, and it still isolated Chu Kuangren and White King within it. It was as if it was a dual arena built for the two of them. Chapter 750. In the Universe. Inside the golden enchanted boundary. The battle between Chu Kuangren and White King had completely destroyed the entire number 64 asteroid. A large amount of chaotic energy waves mixed with flames surrounded the two and violently attacked the enchanted boundary. However, the Blood Tribe had put in a lot of effort to set up this enchanted boundary. It was not something that could be destroyed by an asteroid explosion. "Chu Kuangren, you're no match for the Taoist master." King White roared and swung the giant axe in his hand. A 1,000,000-meter-long axe ray covered in mysterious Taoist patterns shot out. Even with Chu Kuangren's 10,000 avatars and the power of his mini-realm, he was still blasted thousands of kilometers away and smashed into the golden enchanted boundary. Is this the power of a Taoist master? TSK, how powerful! Although Chu Kuangren was at a disadvantage, he did not feel discouraged at all. On the contrary, the battle intent in his eyes grew stronger. He had not felt pressure for a long time. Fight again. Reversal of heaven and earth. Chu Kuangren's Tao of invincibility and ultimate emperor essence were activated to the extreme, and the 10,000 avatars behind him blasted out an invincible technique. The power of the avatars combined with the power of the ultimate mystery and turned into a colorful light beam. Wherever it went, the sun and moon were overturned and the cosmos shattered. This person's combat strength is beyond my imagination. White King's eyes revealed a hint of seriousness. With his giant axe in hand, he let out a low growl and channeled his Taoist master's power. The Taoist patterns intertwined and turned into an axe ray that smashed the colorful light beam. The powerful impact once again blasted Chu Kuangren away. However, what surprised White King was that Chu Kuangren had already taken a few of his attacks head-on. Logically speaking, no matter how strong his physical body was, it should have been shattered by that attack. Yet, he was unscathed. Not only that, but his battle intent was also getting stronger. What the hell is going on? White King was shocked. He felt that other than spatial techniques, 10,000 avatars, and physical strength, Chu Kuangren still had a trump card that the Blood Tribe did not know about. Die! White King swung his giant axe. Numerous axe lights that were hundreds of millions of meters long pierced through the heavens and the earth, and every single strike carried a supreme force that was sufficient to shatter stars. Boom, boom, boom. Although Chu Kuangren's 10,000 Taoist avatar tried its best to resist the attack, it still could not withstand the Taoist master's mighty power. On the Dharma idol, the countless Tao patterns exploded under the axe light. The entire Dharma idol fell apart. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, was struck by the axe ray. Even his immortal stellar physique could not withstand it, and a huge wound was torn open on his body. Let's see if you can still die this time. King White snorted coldly. But then, his pupils suddenly shrank. Chu Kuangren, who had been torn by the axe ray, stood in the air. The huge wound on his body was rapidly healing in a way that he could not understand, and in the blink of an eye, it was back to its original state. King White was dumbfounded. What was going on? It wasn't like he had never seen a self-healing ability before. However, the weaker a living being was, the more obvious its self-healing ability was. The higher one's cultivation was, the more difficult it would be for one's physical body to recover from injuries. Once an Empyrean was severely injured, it would require countless resources to recover. It was unknown how long it would take to recover on its own. Thousands or tens of thousands of years would be an understatement. For example, the heavenly executioners. After these Taoists were severely injured during the battle against the rebel gods, their injuries had not fully recovered even after 12 eras. Since Chu Kuangren was an Empyrean, it would take him some resources to recover after he was severely injured. How could he recover in the blink of an eye? That was impossible. King White's Emperor's thought surged as he sensed Chu Kuangren's aura. He realized that Chu Kuangren was not just recovering on the surface, but had fully recovered. Impossible. How can there be such a self-healing ability? Is it an immortal body? King White murmured in a daze. However, that moment of distraction gave Chu Kuangren an opportunity. He cast the spatial conveyor technique and arrived in front of his opponent. Then, he activated the ultimate technique and punched his opponent's chest. However, King White was still a Taoist master, so he quickly recovered from his shock and blocked Chu Kuangren's attack. However, the huge force still sent him flying. The arm that blocked the punch felt numb, and his bones felt like they were broken. King White, who had never been injured for countless years, felt this heart-wrenching pain, and his face immediately contorted. I don't care if you have an immortal body or not. I'm going to kill you. He roared as he channeled his Taoist master's strength to its limit. He swung the giant axe in his hand. Chu Kuangren laughed. With the advantage of his immortal body, he did not care about defense and attacked with an extremely violent attack. Sometimes, he would even trade injury for injury. Chu Kuangren was injured. However, he recovered in the next second. However, King White's injury was real. It was so painful that his face twitched. It was proven that even a Taoist master who had lived for countless years was no different from an ordinary person when he was injured. This was especially true when he hadn't been injured for countless years. When he was injured again, the intense and unfamiliar pain was enough to drive him crazy. After a series of crazy battles, some of the planetary remains inside the golden enchanted boundary had turned into cosmic dust. Chu Kuangren stood in the void. His white clothes were torn and stained with blood, but he was not injured at all. On the other hand, King White's hair was disheveled and there were a few bloody wounds on his body. Impossible. How can there be an immortal body in this world? You must have a weakness. I refuse to believe that I can't kill you. King White gritted his teeth and said. In the battle just now, he had tried to tear off Chu Kuangren's arm, shatter his internal organs, and crush his heart. However, all of that was useless. Chu Kuangren would fully recover in the next instant. This matter was simply inconceivable to the extreme. Weakness? Ha, of course I have a weakness. If you can turn me into countless particles in an instant, you might be able to kill me. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He used the word might. That was because even he did not know if he would die if he was turned into particles. He was now at the 5th level of the immortal body. Particle rebirth. In other words, he could resurrect even if he was turned into particles. However, this particle was very delicate. A millimeter was a particle, and a molecule was also a particle. How much would he have to beat him before he would die? Chu Kuangren did not know either. Nonsense. King White's expression darkened. Chu Kuangren's strength was comparable to a Taoist master's. Coupled with his strong physical body, it would be difficult to tear him into pieces. Not to mention turning him into particles. That was impossible. Furthermore, particle rebirth? Such a thing was unimaginable, and he did not want to believe it. Since I can't kill you, I'll just seal you up and capture you for research. King White snorted. He raised his hand and countless mysterious Taoist patterns began to circulate. These Taoist patterns intertwined and turned into a chain that emanated a powerful sealing fluctuation. Too bad you won't get the chance. Chu Kuangren said. Let's try. King White threw the Taoist pattern chain in his hand. However, at that moment, an extremely vast fluctuation suddenly erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. It was like a majestic heavenly might that shook the universe. Chapter 751. Outside the golden enchanted boundary. The Blood King was battling the firmament star Downlords. Horrifying energy ripples spread in all directions. Some of the asteroids could not withstand such horrifying energy and exploded one after another. Ha, Dharma Downlord, it's been almost a day since the enchanted boundary rose. No matter how strong Chu Kuangren is, do you think he can last a day against a Downlord? Wisdom King laughed with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Not bad. Chu Kuangren's strength was indeed unparalleled. However, he was still below the Downlord. Even if he had the strength to fight a Downlord, an entire day had passed, and he was facing one of the 13 Blood Kings. Wisdom King and the others did not think that Chu Kuangren would be a match for White King. Even the Dharma Downlord and the others could not help but feel their hearts sink. A day had passed. Could Chu Kuangren hold on? The enchanted boundary hasn't disappeared yet, which means that White King hasn't killed Chu Kuangren yet. What are you guys so proud of? The Dharma Downlord snorted, but he did not show any signs of worry. It was more important to stay calm at times like this. That's right. Do you think Chu Kuangren is that easy to kill? Forget a day, even if you have 10 more days, I don't think White King can kill Chu Kuangren. Who knows, Chu Kuangren might even be able to kill White King. One of the firmament star Downlords said loudly. He was the demonic bull Downlord of the demonic ox lineage. He had horns on his head and a nose ring on his nose. He looked like an honest man. Seeing that everyone was rooting for Chu Kuangren, he spoke up too. However, as soon as he said that, everyone looked at him strangely. Hey, that's too much. Killing a Downlord? How is that possible? Although the Dharma Tao Lord and the others were very confident in Chu Kuangren and felt that he would definitely be able to change the situation of the extraterrestrial battlefield in the future, however, he was still a heavenly honorable. The difference between a heavenly honorable and a Tao Lord was like heaven and earth. The demonic bull Tao Lord also felt that he had gone overboard. However, since he had said it, would he not retract it now? What are you looking at? Chu Kuangren is the most outstanding sky pride in the history of Firmament Star. It's not impossible for him to kill a Tao Lord who's one realm higher. The demonic bull Tao Lord raised his head and said. Killing a Tao Lord, how can you say something like that? King Ming was disdainful. Although he said that, he could not help but feel uneasy. Why would the White King fight with Chu Kuangren for so long? What was this guy doing? Cut the crap. It doesn't matter if Chu Kuangren is dead or alive today, we won't let this matter rest. The Dharma Taoist master said coldly. Just as the two sides were about to continue fighting, a strange fluctuation suddenly came from the golden barrier, causing everyone to be startled. What is this energy fluctuation? Heavenly Tao. That's impossible. There aren't any living creatures on this planet. How could a heavenly way be born? What's going on? The Blood Kings were extremely astonished. Vaguely, King Ming felt even more uneasy. The Path Master of 10,000 Laws and the others seemed to have thought of something, and their eyes flickered. Inside the golden enchanted boundary, the Taoist chain that White King had flung out was repelled by the powerful heavenly Tao fluctuations that emanated from Chu Kuangren's body. He stared at Chu Kuangren and could not help but narrow his eyes in shock. Heavenly Axiom? Impossible, how can you be the Heavenly Axiom? The Heavenly Tao was something that could only be produced by a planet with life. It was an amalgamation of the will of the planet and countless living creatures. The Bloodgore star also had its own Heavenly Tao. Although it was different from the Firmament Star's Heavenly Tao, White King would never mistake it for something else. The fluctuations that emanated from Chu Kuangren's body were definitely the Heavenly Tao. He could not imagine it. How could a person emit Heavenly Tao fluctuations? Don't tell me he's merged with the Heavenly Tao like the Blood God. No, that's impossible. The Blood God has yet to awaken after merging with the Heavenly Tao. He's not even a Tao Lord yet, so how can he merge with the Heavenly Tao? White King was completely dumbfounded. He could not understand why Chu Kuangren was not even a Tao Lord, yet he had so many trump cards that even the Tao Lord found unbelievable. Chu Kuangren's immortal body was already scary enough. Now, he had even summoned a surge of heavenly Tao energy. This is the first time I'm using this state against an enemy. Chu Kuangren's emotionless voice was so calm that it was terrifying. He was now in the converging Tao state. The Firmament Star's Heavenly Tao energy was at his disposal. He felt that he had never felt so powerful before. Every move he made was filled with the majestic might of the heavens. Countless Taos would be suppressed in front of him. Junior Realm, open. Chu Kuangren said calmly. A junior realm that was merged with the Heavenly Tao energy opened up and enveloped White King within, completely suppressing his Taos. D****, my Taos are being suppressed. White King's expression changed. He was a Tao Lord, so only a Tao Lord with a higher cultivation level could suppress his Taos. However, Chu Kuangren had done it as a heavenly honorable. That was because he was now the Heavenly Tao. All the known Taos originated from the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao naturally suppressed all Taos. Fortunately, White King was not a Firmament Star Tao Lord. Otherwise, he would have been suppressed even more by the Firmament Star's Heavenly Tao. Blood-devouring slash. White King roared and swung his giant axe at Chu Kuangren. He used all his strength in that attack. However, under the Heavenly Tao's suppression, he could not unleash his full strength. Heavenly Reversal. Chu Kuangren unleashed a punch. The ultimate technique that was merged with the Heavenly Tao energy increased its power by more than a level, instantly shattering the axe ray. King White was sent flying by the force. D****. Blood Primal Force, burn. White King knew that he had to use his final trump card. His body was engulfed in blood-colored flames, and his aura surged crazily. Illusory 7 Emotions Song. At that moment, Chu Kuangren pointed a finger at him from afar, and a mysterious Taoist fluctuation that seemed to transcend the heavenly Tao spread out. That finger caused White King's emotions to fluctuate violently. Countless memories surged in his mind, some sad, some happy. He thought of his wife who had died many years ago. His wife was gentle and sweet. However, when he was young, he focused on his cultivation and neglected her. In the end, his wife died of depression. Meanwhile, he was in closed-door meditation. He did not even get to see her one last time. Then, he thought of his son. To nurture his son, he threw him into the cruelest battlefield to train. He had 7 sons, but in the end, only one was left. That person was Bai Juexin. But now, Bai Juexin was also dead. At that thought, White King could not help but tear up. His original battle intent was also rapidly diminishing. What's going on? Why am I suddenly thinking about these things? However, White King suddenly regained his senses. He stared at Chu Kuangren, sensing the Taoist fluctuation that emanated from his body. He gulped, extremely shocked. Immortal technique. To be able to break free from the influence of the illusory 7 Emotions song so quickly, should I say that you're indeed a Taoist master? Chu Kuangren said. Impossible, this is impossible. How can Firmament Star have immortal techniques? There are only 2 immortal technique civilizations in the entire Purple Gold Galaxy. How can Firmament Star have immortal techniques? White King roared in disbelief. Chapter 752. Immortal Technique. A Taoist technique used by immortals. White King stared at Chu Kuangren in shock as his pupils trembled violently. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, fell silent when he heard that. Immortal Technique Civilization. The entire Purple Gold Galaxy. It was the first time he had heard of such a term. However, White King had already used all his strength to rush out of the golden enchanted boundary while Chu Kuangren was deep in thought. He was trying to escape. Even after burning his blood primordial energy, he no longer had any intention to fight. Immortal body. Heavenly Tao energy. Now, another immortal technique had appeared. White King swore that this was the first time he had encountered such a freak that could not be measured by common sense. He must have been out of his mind to think of dealing with Chu Kuangren back then. Now, all he wanted was to get as far away from Chu Kuangren as possible. He turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the enchanted boundary. Just as he was about to reach the enchanted boundary, he took out a jade token and threw it out. It was a token to enter and exit the enchanted boundary. Ha, don't you think it's a little too late to leave now? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. With a lift of his arm, the heavenly Tao energy flowed and combined with the Taoist Emperor's Qi to form a purple world lock. Outside the golden enchanted boundary. The appearance of the heavenly Tao energy stopped the Taoists from attacking. At that moment, a figure rushed out of the golden enchanted boundary. The Blood Kings were delighted to see that figure. It's White King. Ha, White King has come out. It seems that he has successfully killed Chu Kuangren. As expected, that guy is no match for White King. The Blood Kings laughed out loud. On the other hand, the Firmament Star cultivators' expressions darkened. D***MNit. Could Chu Kuangren really be dead? The Dharma Taoist master was so furious that his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. That was a power that could dominate the extraterrestrial battlefields in the future. Something's not right. White King's expression doesn't look right. Suddenly, King Farsighted noticed something. Although White King had come out, his aura was chaotic and his face was filled with panic. It was as if he was running for his life. White King was running for his life. Save me! White King yelled in panic. However, before King Farsighted and the others could do anything, several purple chains rushed out from the golden enchanted boundary. Tao patterns flowed on the chain, and it was extremely mysterious. The purple chain caught up to King White at an extremely fast speed and tightly wrapped around him. Then, it pulled him into the golden barrier. Even with White King Dao Master's cultivation realm, he was unable to resist. "Save me! Save me!" King White roared at King Ming and the others. The Wisdom Monarch and the others immediately made their move as well. They wanted to attack the chains, but the myriad spells Dao Lord and the others clearly would not give them the chance. "You want to save him? No way. Ha, looks like the White King is going to give it away for free." The myriad arts Dao Lord and the demonic bull Dao Lord looked excited. Although they did not know what was happening inside the golden enchanted boundary, they could guess that Chu Kuangren had gained the upper hand when they saw that White King was at a disadvantage. Therefore, they couldn't let anyone interfere. Damn it! King Ming watched as King White was dragged back into the barrier by the chains. He finally confirmed that the uneasiness in his heart was not an illusion. What had Chu Kuangren done? It had actually caused a Dao Lord to become so terrified that he had even disregarded his image and shouted for help. Inside the golden barrier, Chu Kuangren manipulated the world lock to drag King White back. "It's too late for you to run away." He gently raised his arm. Behind him, the 10,000 Daoist avatar that was infused with the heavenly Dao's energy soared into the air and slammed its palm towards his opponent. King White roared and channeled his full strength, but that palm still blasted him away and sent him crashing into the barrier. However, he could not break free from the world lock. Boom, boom, boom. The 10,000 Daoist avatar behind Chu Kuangren attacked one after another. The Daoist patterns on King White's Emperor's body continued to shatter and explode. Soon, his body was on the verge of collapse. Originally, King White would not have been defeated so quickly with his strength. However, he had been scared silly by Chu Kuangren's endless trump cards, and his will to fight had been worn down by the 7 emotions illusory melody. That was why a Dao Lord could only passively take a beating. Not long after, King White's Emperor's body crumbled, and he was on the verge of death. Chu Kuangren grabbed the White King's axe and walked towards him. There was not the slightest hint of emotion in his indifferent eyes. An axe ray flashed past. The Blood Tribe's ruler had fallen. Outside the golden enchanted boundary, the Blood Kings and the Firmament Star Dao Lords were engaged in a fierce battle. Suddenly, the golden enchanted boundary was hit by an extremely powerful force. Then, countless cracks began to appear on the entire golden enchanted boundary. Amidst the explosion, the entire enchanted boundary shattered into countless light spots. A white figure slowly walked out. That person was tall and slender. His clothes were as white as snow, and his jet-black hair fluttered in the wind. He was extremely handsome, and every move he made carried an unfathomable aura. Chu Kuangren. Look, he's carrying King White. Chu Kuangren stepped through the air and approached them. In his hand was a head. It was King White. Chu Kuangren had killed King White. Although the Blood Kings had expected it, they could not help but be shocked when they saw it for themselves. Chu Kuangren had really killed a Dao Lord. Ha ha ha. I told you guys that Brother Chu could kill a Dao Lord, but you guys didn't believe me. Now you've seen it for yourself. The Bull Demon Dao Lord laughed. Although he was just bragging earlier. Now, no one could refute him. The truth was right in front of them. Chu Kuangren came before the Blood Kings, raised his hand, and threw the head in his hand at them before unleashing a surge of energy chi. In front of the Blood Kings, he crushed King White's head into dust. This one's too weak. Is there anyone stronger among you guys? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The Blood King stared at him in shock and confusion. What was wrong with this person? Why was there a fluctuation of the heavenly Dao? Also, did he really fight King White? Why was he not injured at all? Not even his clothes were damaged. They were so clean that not a speck of dust could be seen. What did that mean? It meant that King White did not even have the strength to scratch the corner of his clothes. Countless thoughts flashed through the Wisdom King and the others' minds. The more they thought about it, the more they felt that Chu Kuangren was too terrifying. How could he kill a Tao Lord so easily? Retreat! The Wisdom King growled before he led the others away. Chu Kuangren did not give chase. That was because he had expended a lot of energy. Now that a half-step Tao Lord had appeared, it would be difficult for him to fight. Not to mention killing a group of Tao Lords. Looks like I managed to fool them. Chu Kuangren murmured. That was right. His current stance was all an act. The heavenly Tao's aura was real, but it was just a facade. The clean white robe he was wearing was something he changed into when he exited the enchanted boundary. As for his lack of injuries, how could an immortal body be injured? That was the most important point. The Blood Kings only realized how terrifying he was because he was not injured at all. He was able to kill King White without a scratch. However, if they thought about it carefully, they would realize that if he was really that powerful, he would not have fought King White for an entire day. However, they were too shocked by King White's death that they did not think too much about it. No matter what, it was true that Chu Kuangren had killed a Tao Lord. That alone was enough to make them fearful.